It is 8:43, and I am now going to call to order the council meeting of Tuesday, July 23rd. We apologize for the delay, but we are having technical difficulties, and so we have been slightly delayed. We have an agenda that's in front of us. Are there any additions to that agenda? Councillor Forbes.
Under closed session, can I add a section 16 third-party interest?
Okay, so we have section 16 under our closed session, 11.4, third-party business interests. So that's one addition. Any other additions? Councillor Penner?
Under council committee reports, drum solid waste, as well as just division 2.
Okay, so 9.3, drum solid waste and division 2 report. Any others? Councillor Cunningham.
Under council and committee reports, I'll do verbal on police advisory and just update division 5.
Okay, police advisory 9.4 and division 5. Councillor Forbes, yes.
Can we also do an update on the Three Hills Parade
Okay,
that we attended?
so 9.5, Three Hills Parade. Any others? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so Councillor Christie.
If not, I'll move the agenda as amended.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the agenda as amended. All those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. We have the regular council meeting minutes from the June 25th meeting pre-circulated. Are there any corrections, errors, omissions? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept them. Councillor McGee.
I move to accept the minutes of the June 25th, 24 regular meeting of council.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the June 25th council meeting minutes as presented. All those in favor? And that's also carried unanimously. Okay, moving on in our agenda, we will go to 4.1, the EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility Program. And welcome, Mr. McKiernan. Good morning, John. And good morning. Anytime you are ready.
All right. Thank you, Reeve. Good morning, Council. So this morning, I just bring forth the RFD for the EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility Recycling Program. So a little bit of a background, the provincial government has mandated the extended producer responsibility for the recycling of single-use products, packaging and paper products, as well as hazardous and special products. They're broken up into two categories. PPP is for the everyday packaging, and the HSP is for the more of the hazardous waste and that sort of thing. The provincial government has tasked the Alberta Recycling Management Authority with the overseeing of this program and developing the relevant bylaws and policies. Communities were encouraged to register for the program, but were not required to. They intended to continue funding and operating their own recycling programs. Kneehill County is a registered community. The program is intended to shift the financial and operational burdens from communities to the producers of the materials identified as either PPP or HSP. PPP is collected at county transfer sites through the E360 recycling bin at the Kneehill County-operated Three Hills transfer site and the cardboard and newsprint bins located at most of the other county-operated transfer sites. Single-use products, packaging and paper products include the following materials from the residential sector. Single-use products including like packaging-like products made from plastics, both rigid and flexible, metals, glass, and paper. Paper products such as flyers, brochures, newspapers, magazines, etc. So that was just a little bit of the background. I think we've presented a bit of that before. So a bit of discussion. As the deadlines for EPR fast approach, communities that registered must decide now between two service models before August 1st, 2024. The community can decide whether to opt in or opt out. It should be noted that this is only for the PPP portion of the program, as the HSP portion does not transition until a later date. The province has chosen only one producer responsibility organization, the PRO, to facilitate the program, Circular Materials. Below is the model of opting in or opting out as provided by Circular Materials. So an opt-in service is basically when the community will continue to manage their current recycling and collection contract. Payment will be provided by Circular Materials based on cost per stop. Community will manage their customer service under the current contract we'd have to have, and the community would continue to manage basically the promotion and education of the program with their to their residents and that sort of thing. If we were opt out, and just to clarify, opting in, opting out doesn't mean that you're opting out of this whole program, because we've already registered, so we're in it. So now we're just kind of opting in or opting out on a service model, how it's going to work. So opting out, so basically we're kind of leaving it all in the hands of Circular Materials. They'll manage the collection and the post-collection responsibilities of the recycling program. They'll also negotiate directly with the collection service provider and administer that contract. The collection service provider will be responsible for the customer service, with the inquiries managed by Circular Materials, and Circular Materials will directly lead the promotion and education of that of the recycling within the community. So just looking at it, I'm sure that there's more. We did come up with a few pros and cons of each option. So some pros and cons for opting in. So this would basically be Kneehill County kind of still administrating, leading, directing the service model. So some pros would be we'd still maintain some of the direct control of the recycling program and branding of the communication. There is potential compensation for administration of the program. Some of the opt-in cons would be potential to be invoiced for contaminated loads, i.e. that's kind of the industrial, commercial, institutional, agricultural material that comes in to the sites. And also the reporting requirements are expected to be quite significant, providing CM with the data recording ratepayer visits and quantities. So for opting out, some of the pros are Circular Materials will manage the recycling program, contracts and collection services coordinated by Circular Materials. Curbside collection of PPP will be introduced by Circular Materials to existing residents with existing curbside garbage collection. As this program is province-wide, all residents are expected to have the same opportunity to recycle. Some of the opt-out cons could be loss of control of the recycling program and how it is administered. Communications with residents will be directly from Circular Materials. Resident concerns and issues may still be directed towards the county even though we do not administer the program or will not necessarily be able to help them resolve their concerns. So moving on from those, so Circular Materials is a nonprofit organization working on behalf of the producers, and it should be noted that they will look at the recycling program and how it can be done with the most efficiency and effectiveness. So although the transition is to be seamless as possible, there could be slight changes on how the material is collected, where it is collected, and where it is taken after collection. The program mandates that a certain percentage of materials must be collected, and those percentages are quite aggressive. Therefore, it is highly probable that the level of service they would provide would remain the same or possibly increase. With an increase in the level of service, more recycling options could be seen at more locations. The Drumheller District and District Solid Waste Association has a role to play, and their decision to either opt in or opt out have some effect on Kneehill County. As of this submittal, we still had not heard what that decision was, so it's unknown to us at this time. It should be noted and known that this program is for residential recycling only. Any ICI, industrial, commercial, industrial, which would include agricultural recycling, will not be accepted. Agricultural farms, small businesses, home businesses, etc., are considered ICI material and would not be accepted. If these items were received through the program, the county could possibly be invoiced for that. If Kneehill County chooses to accommodate the ICI material by putting in alternate bins at depots, this program and related costs would not be covered under this EPR program. If a community decides on one of the service models, it's still unclear if at all it'll be possible to reverse that decision in the future. Another option that appears available to communities is to just unregister from the EPR program in total. This option would entail the community taking on all the financial, operational, and administrative burdens to provide recycling options to its residents. So some of the financial implications or staffing implications would be really dependent upon what model is chosen and the contract with Circular Materials. The program is intended to shift the financial burden away from the municipality, so saving and recycling bin rental pickup, drumheller and district annual reconciliation, site expenses related to the collection of PP, and the possibility of Circular Materials leasing our sites for collection could be expected under financial implications. So that's a lot of the background and a bit of our discussion. So some of the options for council are obviously to opt, as the first is to pursue the opt-out service model with Circular Materials, pursue the opt-in service model with Circular Materials, unregister Kneehill County from the EPR program, or just, I guess, not make a decision yet, receive this as information. So I can answer some questions, but I'd just like to make it known that there's still a lot of unknowns to this, and I may not be able to. So it's, and being on webinars and things like that, there is some, and they're kind of jumping in and learning things after the fact. So I'll try to answer what I can if you have questions on it.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. McKernan. Are there questions from council? Councillor Penner.
Not a question, just for clarification. John had mentioned that Drumheller and Solid Waste hasn't made their decision as yet. Because this vote needs to be made and it's less than 30 days, we have to have 100% attendance at the vote, and the vote is this Thursday at 1 o'clock, whether this Drumheller and District Solid Waste opts in or out as a collection, like a collection site. Yeah.
It's kind of awkward making a decision with limited information.
No, it is. So through the reef, I can say that I've heard, I believe it's Wheatland County, and I think Town of Trochu last night, both of them went to the opt-out model. Those are the only two that I know of currently. But.
So just for my own clarity, the opt-out selection means that this company's Circular Materials would then become responsible for the program within Kneehill County. And theoretically, the actual collection of recycled materials would increase, because now some of the products that we no longer, or we can't currently recycle, would become mandated, like consumer glass and some of that stuff.
Yes, through the reef. So that's basically what they would do. They would, Circular Materials, if we opted out, would become the administrator of this recycling program. They would take glass now, they'll take everything else that we take, and then they would look at it and say, what, we have to meet these deadlines, where can we put bins that would most effectively and efficiently get us that material that we need to collect? So they may use our sites, they may use somewhere else. I mean, it'd be totally up to them to do it right. So if they use our sites, then we'd be in a contract with them to, well, either way, we'd have to go in a contract with them anyways. And it would specify if they use our sites, maybe they lease it, right? So we get a little bit of money that way. Maybe they pay us for our attendant to be there to oversee the bins, things like that. So, but all that stuff, like I said, we don't know. We'll see when that contract comes, kind of thing, right? So I know it is hard to make a decision when you don't know a lot, but that's the reality of every other municipality right now. They're kind of jumping in either one way or the other, and then see what happens, I guess, after.
So I would assume that one of the big risks to us managing this program ourselves, other than the cost of doing that, would be what happens when people don't put the proper materials in the proper bins and we get contamination, and then loads can't be recycled, but they have to be landfilled. Is that one of the things?
Through the
that's-
REAP, yeah, that would be one of the big ones. As well, probably one of our larger users for maybe cardboard and that sort of thing might be our agricultural users, like with their pesticide boxes, things like that. And that wouldn't be included under this program. So if we, let's say, opted out, then yeah, if that was in there and they did audits and they found that most percentage was, and they don't have it in place where they could invoice us or what thing, but it could come into play where if it's a lot, they could start invoicing us type thing, but we don't know that either, right? How much or what their threshold may be, right, kind of thing. So those are kind of the things. So if we opted out and we still wanted to service them, then collecting that agriculture, institutional, that would be on the county to
So my assumption would be is that a lot of the cardboard that we do get is likely business and ag related.
through the reeve, I guess in certain times of year, yes, like around this, spraying times, then probably the majority is the boxes for those pesticide containers. But otherwise, it's hard to say. I mean, because we never really kept track of who's a small business, who's not coming into the site. So it's hard to give you a definite answer on that one.
Okay, thank you for that, John. Appreciate it. Are there other questions? Councillor Penner, it looks like you have a question.
Yep, I don't want. So to me, I would be in favor of opting out. And the reason is, they are going to do it all, other than the odd thing, like we may have to put bins in at some of our sites for our certain times of the year for our cardboard, and also with some of the businesses within the county, the industry, they're not supposed to be using it. They're going to do it all. It's still up in the air exactly how it's going to look, but by listening to them, they're going to run it, and it may actually improve the recycling within our county. They might put more of certain material bins at all our sites. So, and that's to their expense. So the only financial burden that I can see down the road is if we've got to put another bin in for our agricultural producers and that kind of stuff, or our industry I should say, not just ag producers, it's industry, if it's noted that there's a lot of industry cardboard in the bins, in the cardboard bins. But now not to have the expense and for them to be taking over this program, and they've got to get the material in order to make their commitments to their pros or to their MRFs or whoever that they'll have a contract with them to take this material. So just my thoughts. For me, I'm into opting out.
Just a little bit, sorry, Reeve, on that. So for that ICI material that's not acceptable under this also does include, like, if somebody has a small business selling Avon products out of their house and those boxes come, that's considered ICI too, even though it could be smaller than what a resident brings. So that'd be tough to do it. So I don't know how they're gonna ever figure that out. But I just kind of wanted to let you know that ICI does go from really small users to larger users as well. So there's quite a lot, and I don't know how they'll figure that out. That's one of those unknowns that we'll find out kind of later. But.
So in your presentation also, you talked about the fact that there might be curbside pickup for those who have curbside garbage. So does that mean the possibility exists that within our hamlets there would be curbside recycling pickup?
Yeah, so through the Reeve, from my understanding through all the webinars and all that kind of thing that I've gone through, if you have existing garbage collection as of November 2023, I think it was, then they'll bring in curbside recycling as well. How that looks, I'm not too sure, if it's a bin or not, or what have you, but yeah. And I think with opting out, that would all be then on their shoulders to develop that program and bring it into those hamlets. If we opted in, then that would be on our shoulders to develop that, introduce it and manage it, but then get reimbursed back kind of thing. So opting out, they would come up with their plan of play to put that Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions, comments, discussion? Councillor Christie?
Curiosity, if we opted out and it's not working 18 months from now, what's the direction then?
Nobody knows.
Through the reef, you answered, nobody knows. I did attend a webinar is it webinar, Zoom, what? And we did have people who were from Ontario and Newfoundland on there that are already kind of transitioned into this. And that's where there's still unknowns even with them and they're in it. But I think the one municipality, and I think it was the one in Ontario, they opted in because they were concerned about, I think, the invoicing and how much they might get charged for all that contaminated. But I think now they were kind of thinking maybe we should opt it out. And I think they were told they can't. So I don't know. It might be reversed. It might be they opted in and they want to opt out, or I can't remember exactly. But anyways, they were concerned that they couldn't reverse their choice back to the other one. So because they signed a contract, and I don't know how long those contracts are for, and I don't know if there's any termination clauses in them. So
I guess that kind of information is really not available to us but the province is saying you have till August 1st to make this decision.
that's right.
So I guess when we read that contract, we want to have a opt-out or an out clause somewhere, maybe. So that's where the difficulty comes. Councillor Penner.
To me, recycling is the way of the future, and it may not look like this. It could change down the road here, and I think we have some strong recycling bodies. There's just different arms of it in the provincial government and whatnot else, and they, I feel, are going to really stand behind us as municipalities because they want these programs to work, and so I think they're going to be our voice of reasoning to the provincial government if something happens here and it goes haywire. They've got to develop it's in the process, and we've been talking about this forever, and it's going to happen, and we're not 100% how it's going to look, but this is a great start.
Yeah. So through the Reeve, a little bit more, ARMA has the Alberta Management Recycling, they have developed bylaws and all this that will control this program. So the pro does have to, there is rules and regulations they have to follow as well. Another big thing is like they do have kind of quotas of what they need to kind of recycle, what they have to collect and recycle. And those are pretty aggressive. So they're not going to come in and say, oh, we're going to strip you down to one bin. They're going to be looking for the way to collect as much as they can because they do have those quotas that they do need to reach. So I don't think they're going to come in here and say, we're not doing much for you kind of thing. I think they're going to do as much as they can to make sure that that stuff's getting collected. Just because on their side, they have, like I said, they have things that they need to accomplish as well. So,
Councillor Penner.
And they want their trucks full. So they're going to work with us. They want to get as much as they can in a small, and it's harder in the rural areas here. They got to travel the distance. But they want to fill their trucks. So I honestly think they're going to work with us in the rural. What it looks like, again, we're not sure, but.
yeah. Through the Reeve, again, it looks like a really good program. There's a lot of unknowns that we don't know what's going to happen. So.
Well, I know the glass bin will be busy for the first few months because people will be emptying all the glass they've stored in their garage for the last 10 years, waiting for an opportunity to do this.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. I mean, it just goes against the grain to throw that stuff in the trash. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens when the program gets rolled out. So.
All right.
Any further, Councillor McGee?
This is likely more a question for our administration CEO. The way the recommended motion is written, which I'm tending towards, does that still allow that if you saw the contract and it wasn't suitable for us, it still allows you to say no to the contract? Or do we need to?
Mr. Hogan.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the way the motion's worded is that ideally, we would go down that route. We'd take a look at the contract. The motion does not mandate us to have to sign a contract that we don't think is good.
Thank you.
If we do run into that instance, then there may be some timing issues or other things that we have to work ourselves through. So it's not necessarily a clean issue if we get there, but yeah, it doesn't commit us to have to sign a contract that we don't think is very good.
Great, then I'll make the motion that council direct administration to pursue the opt-out service model with circular materials.
Thank you for that. We have a motion. Is there any further discussion? I guess my only other comment would be is that circular materials is really the one option that seems to be available to us, right?
Yeah, through the Reeve, that's correct. They're the only approved pro, so that is through the Alberta Municipal Recycling Program. They're the ones that have been accepted as a pro. That doesn't mean there isn't more. In Ontario, I think they had 3, so it all depends who can operate and, right, kind of things.
But at this point in time, we have one option to negotiate with.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Penner?
And just remember for the general public, this is just for PPP and HSP, not household hazardous waste. There's still other recycling things that have to be dealt with, but this is just the 2 areas that we are dealing with here.
Right, HSP will come later though. This is just PPP contract. HSP will be with a different pro.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further clarification, discussion, comment? If not, we have a motion to direct administration to pursue the opt-out service model with circular materials. Any further discussion? Now, are you ready for the question? All those in favor? And that looks like that's unanimous, so we carried. Thank you, Mr. McKernan. We appreciate you being here today. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is 5.1.1, Bylaw 1904, Land Use Bylaw Amendment. And welcome, Ms. Keever, to our chilly but friendly environment. And anytime you're ready.
All right, good morning. We have received an application to redesignate a portion of land from Ag District to the Recreation District. The subject land is adjacent to the Red Deer River on a portion of the southwest of 26, 29, 21, Plan 8210253, Block 1, Lot 1. Rezoning portions to recreation would allow for camping and provided accommodations and weddings in a backyard. Under the MGA, applications for the redesignation of lands require a public hearing to be held prior to adopting the bylaw. First reading to a proposed bylaw is the mechanism to get the application in the queue. All information and questions regarding the application are to be brought forward at the public hearing so it may be heard by everyone. The public hearing process is a legislative process, and as per the MGA, council must hear any person or group of persons who claim to be affected by the proposed bylaw. Any landowner who feels they will be impacted by a proposed development, either positively or negatively, will have an opportunity to come and speak about the matter directly at the public hearing. Affected parties can also submit their comments in writing. These comments will be included in the public hearing package for council consideration. Participating in the public hearing is a legislative method to provide your comments to council for consideration. Once a public hearing is closed, no additional information should be considered in the decision-making process. Redesignations are about the proposed use. It is not a permit to develop. If successful in their redesignation, specific details regarding the development will be required to be submitted with their application. The location of the proposed redesignation is between Highway 837 and the Red Deer River. The landowners wish to redesignate portions of their 9.22 acre property, which is currently zoned ag, to recreation. Approximately 4 plus or minus acres will be for camping and domed tents constructed on movable wooden platforms. His intent is to initially construct 1 site to a maximum of 6. Another 1.5 acre area southeast of the residence will be for small weddings less than 50 people. So your options today are to move first reading of the proposed bylaw for the purpose of amending Land Use Bylaw 1808 by redesignating a portion of the southwest of 26, 29, 21, Plan 8210253, Block 1, Lot 1, from Ag to Recreation District, and that schedule the public hearing as per sections 216.4 and 692 of the MGA to be held on August 20th at 10:30 a.m. You can also schedule for an alternate date and time or request more information prior to this reading.
Okay, thank you for that, Ms. Keever. Are there any questions for the planner regarding this item, the redesignation? Councillor McGee.
I would like, just for clarity, for you to speak to how does residents' concern regarding the roadway there, it's horrendous. And I know there'll be a lot of concerns about that portion. How do we address this in this process?
We did, I have already talked to Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors. So they will get a referral once this gets sent out, and then we will get their official comments. She wasn't really too worried about setbacks in regarding to the campground portion. She was a little more concerned about perhaps maybe the wedding of, 50 or less people. So she said there may be some extra traffic impact assessment sort of memo that would be required, but without actually getting an actual referral, she couldn't really comment on anything steadfast.
Okay, any other questions? So this just sets it in motion and allows the people who are immediately adjacent or directly impacted to comment.
And the referral agencies as well.
Yeah. Any further comments or questions? If not, I would be looking for a motion to give first reading and then a secondary motion to schedule a public hearing. Councillor Cunningham, please.
I'll move that council move first reading of proposed bylaw 1904 for the purpose of amending land use bylaw 1808 by redesignating a portion of southwest 26, 29, 21 west of the 4th, plan 8210253, block 1, lot 1, from agriculture district to recreation district.
Okay, thank you for the motion. We have a motion now to move first reading of proposed bylaw 1904. Is there any further discussion, question, or comment? Okay, I'm not seeing any. So the motion is we give first reading to proposed bylaw 1904 for the purpose of amending land use bylaw 1808 by redesignating a portion of the southwest 26, 29, 21 west of 4, Plan 8210253, Block 1, Lot 1, Agriculture District to Recreation District. I'm not seeing any further discussion, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Deputy Reeve Whitstock.
I would move council to schedule a public hearing as per section 216-4 and 692 of the Municipal Government Act to be held on August the 20th, 2024 at 10:30 a.m.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, we have a motion to schedule the public hearing on August 20th. Is there any further discussion to the motion? I'm not seeing any, so the motion is that council schedule a public hearing as per section 216.4 and 692 of the Municipal Government Act be held on August 20th, 2024 at 10:30 a.m. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Keever. We look forward to having you back again on a warmer day. Or at least a warmer council chamber day. Thank you. All right.
I'm being heckled.
The next item in our agenda is 5.2.1, 2024 Horseshoe Canyon Master Plan. And welcome Ms. Sherlock and Ms. Gerbrandt, and supporting cast, Ms. Colton. I guess anytime you're ready.
Okay. So good morning, Council. This morning we bring before you the 2024 Horseshoe Canyon Master Plan. Are we able to go to the presentation, Carolyn?
We are having some technical difficulties today, so just so you're aware.
Yes, please. Okay. So as per the background, at the February 20th Committee of the Whole meeting, administration brought forward the discussion on Horseshoe Canyon associated with the 2019 master plan. This was that was approved in principle, the 2021 focus group recommendations, and past and current activities and improvements that have occurred at Horseshoe Canyon. Based on the information provided by council at this meeting, administration amended the master plan to incorporate the details as we understood them. The new draft master plan was then presented at the Committee of the Whole meeting on June 18th, where further feedback and direction were provided by council to administration. The final draft incorporating the recommended adjustments is the document that we have brought forward to you today. The final draft is a collaboration of that 2019 master plan, the 2021 focus group recommendations, and council's direction through the Committee of the Whole discussions. Once approved by council, the 2024 Horseshoe Canyon Master Plan will provide administration with the direction needed to bring forward initiatives that support council's vision for the site, as well as council's strategic plans for the county. So the purpose of this presentation will be to review these changes and the components of the 2024 Horseshoe Canyon Master Plan for council's final recommendations and approval. I'll just let you get back to that. Yeah. So the changes that have been made since the June Committee of the Whole presentation include adding the references to the 2021 Focus Group Initiative assessment questions on pages 6, 9, 78, and 84. Those questions are: does the initiative preserve the spirit of place at Horseshoe Canyon? Does the initiative sustain and protect the natural state of Horseshoe Canyon? And is the initiative economically and financially feasible and sustainable over time? Additionally, we did add the forward, thanking all those who have worked on this project through the year. We did do some updated graphs and statistics to the existing visitation section, and as well as updating some numbering and fixing some grammatical and spelling errors throughout. At this point, would council like to review the master plan layout? The rest of the presentation is as the Committee of the Whole presentation was. Would this review be helpful for this council?
What's the wish? Just continue forward? Yep.
Okay, excellent. So the forward of the master plan is This revised Horseshoe Canyon Master Plan is the result of the cumulative efforts of multiple individuals and organizations over the years. As such, we'd like to thank McElhaney, Legacy Tourism Group, SWM Consulting Services, the many members of the public who participated in a variety of surveys, and the members of the 2020 to 2021 focus group, and the many Kneehill County staff members who have contributed time, efforts, and passion towards this project. I do have the excerpt from the executive summary that will just kind of give us the gist of the document. So, Kneehill County is host to the breathtaking views and landscapes of the Horseshoe Canyon, referred to as the Canyon. The canyon is frequently enjoyed by visitors and local residents and has become increasingly popular as visitors seek alternative destinations and experiences from Alberta's traditional tourism products. The canyon's current offerings include stunning viewpoints, trails, camping accommodations, and adjacent land sites, and a multitude of budding experiences and stays within Kneehill County and the surrounding regional communities. Kneehill County administration worked diligently to review previous documents and public consultation, project results, and collaborate with council to develop the revised Horseshoe Canyon Master Plan 2024, referred to as HSC-MP 2024. Through the development of the master plan's discussions, strategies, and tactics, 3 questions were created to unify and analyze any initiatives being brought forward. Does the initiative preserve the spirit of place of Horseshoe Canyon? Does the initiative sustain and protect the natural state of Horseshoe Canyon? Is the initiative economically and financially feasible over time? The master plan will address these foundational questions as an ongoing commitment to the thoughtful roadmap to unleash and support the future development of visitor experiences, establishing the canyon as an iconic destination desired by visitors to the county and surrounding areas. This master plan is a supportive set of strategies and actions for the county, businesses, and stakeholders to consider and/or undertake through the development process. It provides a foundation of stewardship of this natural land asset while realizing the potential economic benefit to the county, creating a vibrant and welcoming destination that will be enjoyed for many years to come. Horseshoe Canyon has the opportunity to become a signature, must-experience gateway to the Badlands and an introduction to Kneehill County. It's designed to plan and create an opportunity to evolve from a simple, short stop-and-see destination experience to an experience that motivates travel to the canyon and throughout the broader region. Targeting families and nature-focused special events, Horseshoe Canyon has potential to provide visitors with soft adventure day use and overnight experiences that allow visitors to have close-up experiences that are unavailable at other well-known Badlands destinations. The outcomes. Horseshoe Canyon, as an asset of Kneehill County, has the opportunity to be a cornerstone of economic development in the region, setting the tone for further growth in the area. The Horseshoe Canyon Focus Group created the 3 questions to unify and analyze any initiatives being brought forward, as I've mentioned before. These questions relate to the initiatives and strategies back to the 3 outcomes described below, which enable the canyon to become a signature must-experience gateway to the Badlands. Positive visitor experiences, diversified and greatly enhanced the memorable experiences available at the canyon, develop the canyon into a destination that motivates travel to Kneehill County, the Badlands, and the province. The economic benefit, extending the length of stay of visitors and establishing the canyon as a destination where visitors stay and play rather than stop, look, and leave. Increase the direct and indirect economic contributions to the canyon and tourism is making to Kneehill County and the region. Achieve reasonable rates of return on our investments in the canyon, and stimulate greater employment as well as private sector investments. And finally, responsible management. Effectively manage the infrastructure development and visitor use to minimize the impacts on the canyon's ecological and historical resource values and conflicts between visitors. Minimize the negative impacts of development and visitation on Kneehill County residents and adjacent landowners. Establish a positive and collaborative relationship with adjacent landowners and the broader Badlands tourism region. We can go over to the slides again. And we'll just, now that's the bulk of the executive summary, and we'll just jump through the different sections and give brief summaries on those. Just zoom out a little bit. Zoom out. one more. I think you can see it all now. There we go. Okay. So the introduction to the document there provides an overview of the purpose of the master plan, the planning process, and the different engagement activities that have occurred. Next slide. The site context details highlights the site's locations in relation to larger urban centers as well as to local towns and attractions. As well as the recorded history of Horseshoe Canyon as a recreation space as it's moved from private ownership to Kneehill County ownership. The existing site conditions. The first part of this section provides the context of the current land ownership and zoning, along with delineating for where the restrictive covenant applies, as per the map seen here. Next, it reviews the current activities, amenities, and trails available to visitors. This is followed by a map of the existing utility lines. An inventory of the ecological resources details the landscape, vegetation, and wildlife located in and along the canyon. The historical resources found in the canyon primarily focus on the paleontological significance of the site due to the recent finds being excavated by the Royal Tyrrell Museum. And then the visitor impact on the ecology of the canyon is also reviewed in the document. The final part of this section covers economic development and local and regional tourism plans. Yep.
Sorry, I just need a minute here. So the remainder of the plan, it just goes through the lineage or the linkage to Alberta's Economic Development Plan in rural Alberta, the co-opetition and collaboration through Travel Alberta, Indigenous Tourism, Destination Canada, and Travel Drumheller. There's also the linkage through the local and regional planning and policy direction through Kneehill County's MDP, Kneehill County's land use bylaw, and the restrictive covenant at the floor of the canyon. Kneehill County's tourism and recreation master plan, and then also through Travel Alberta's tourism development zone through the Badlands, Travel Alberta's recent destination development plan, the South Saskatchewan regional plan, and also through the federal government, the Destination Canada Federal Tourism Growth Strategy, and Indigenous Tourism Alberta's Action Plan 24 to 25. So the target markets and market expectations, you can see the graph there provides an outline of the average visitors per month from 2019 to 23. It also shows the visitors from Canada and Europe, primarily being 75% throughout Canada, as our visitors to the canyon. And the visitor numbers by year, by vehicles and people, that expands from 2019 to 2023. And then over to the bottom right, you can see the stakeholder desires, where they're seeking the primary one, more education and interpretive elements, along with improved washrooms and existing trails, and additional amenities and accommodations. Next slide. These are the target markets identified through Travel Alberta's Destination Development Plan, seeing that the key personas that they are pursuing are the hotspot hunters and the curious adventurers. And you can see there they're looking for lookouts and trail tours, and they're prime outdoor enthusiasts and program personalities. So they like to see the different programs and activities as they seek for those locations and destinations. So the competitive landscape, one of the things that Travel Alberta's talked quite a bit about is the accommodation in the RV parks, that there is a shortage of those type of unique accommodations and stays throughout the province. And it's also a key attraction for the area that they're looking to build. So they're looking at those 2-3 star hotels, motels is what's primarily there right now. The activities and attractions, and of course the key one being one of the key ones is Horse Thief Canyon and Dinosaur Provincial Park, which already have existing product. Promising practice destinations that we've seen to embolize what we're trying to look for in the canyon are things like in Sedona, Arizona, the Moabi in Utah, and Gulfos in Iceland. So the destination analysis through a SWOT, through strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The Horseshoe Canyon's main strengths are in its location. It's easily accessible from Alberta's population centers and en route to the existing attractions such as Royal Tyrrell in Drumheller. One of the weaknesses is the landscape is for the tourism development in the site, the fragile nature of the landscape, potential for weather extreme, and seasonality of tourism in the area are all risks to be mitigated against. And the opportunities, there's significant opportunities to expand and diversify the day use experiences, improve amenities on site, provide overnight experiences, as well as to cross-market the site with other tourism destinations in the area. One of the threats, there are threats around changes in provincial and municipal politics, changes in funding opportunities, and potential to focus the site around conservation rather than tourism.
So the vision of Horseshoe Canyon in Kneehill County and the region is described in this section, focusing on the ability of the site to provide engaging, authentic, and memorable experiences for visitors. The unique selling proposition and role of the canyon in the region includes the close proximity to population centers and travel hubs, its location as an initial gateway point to the Badlands region and Kneehill County, the opportunities for diverse and immersive experiences, and the blank canvas for establishing development in the area that is tailored to larger markets. The following guiding principles were used to inform the preferred future design of the site and may also be used to guide the ongoing development and management of the canyon. So iconic, differentiated, and market-driven, diverse experiences, leveraging the natural asset, inclusive experiences, gateway experience, connectivity, access, the sense of place, the complement and integrate with the adjacent lands, sustainability, as well as return on investment. This section lists potential visitor experiences based on various considerations and the target market profiles, along with a map of potential development areas. Going into strategies and actions. So the strategies listed provide measurable implementation to achieve the overall objectives listed in order of priority. The focus group implemented this structure as a way to prioritize the development of the site. The order in which any of the strategies occur can and may change based on the availability and interest in funding and investment opportunities. The initial strategies are those within the next 5 years. These are items that already may be occurring. They set an overall standard for the canyon and provide direction to other activities. The secondary strategies, these depend on if there's space, budget, time, availability, interest from others, and or the completion of initial strategies. The additional strategies, those would be long-term items that would still be up for consideration, but may require more intensive third-party involvement. So getting into the strategies, next slide. So these initial ones are ones, like I said, that are already occurring, is ensuring all operations protect the natural ecology of the canyon, and this will pertain to all of the future and ongoing strategies throughout. The second strategy there is to enhance brand recognition by utilizing an approved brand and logo and implementing wayfinding and promotion in advertising and merchandise. And so you see here the outline for the brand development guide and the logo potentials. So the increase and align signage for information and wayfinding throughout the canyon. So taking what we have existing and what there needs to be improvements on and where we would like to see additional signage and developing that into a full strategy with implementation plans. Number 4 would be integrating and collaborating with the Nature Conservancy of Canada and other adjacent landowners. Number 5 would be establishing a voluntary Friends of Horseshoe Canyon group. This is something that some members of the community are already interested in being involved in, and so something that we'd like to see more interaction with. Next would be implementing a visitor pavilion with washrooms and other amenities. So these are just a couple of examples of facilities that have been built locally as in similar aspects for visitor services. Number 7 would be continue the parking fee collection, exploring automated collection options. Number 8 would be continue trail development, enhancement, and maintenance within and around the perimeter of the canyon. Number 9 would be continue to enhance the multi-use market and event spaces and implement furnishing fixtures and amenities. And number 10 would be to continue actively managing visitors and visitor use of the canyon through the on-site ambassadors that currently are operating our parking program and work in that programming.
The secondary strategies to consult and develop an area structure plan for future and further development and to attract those target markets to the canyon. Number 13 is to encourage private sector opportunities that ensure a reasonable return on investment for the county. And you'll see the frameworks through exploring a capital planning framework or public-private partnership framework that we can explore. The additional strategies, number 14, is to collaborate with nearby regional tourism location, which is really already occurring through Travel Alberta and the TDZ through Travel Alberta and the Destination Development Plan at Travel Drumheller. And number 15 is to strengthen the focus of the Indigenous relationships and history and develop relationships with Indigenous leaders.
And the final strategy listed would be allowing a diversity of overnight experiences to be implemented and operated by a third party. And you can see a couple of examples of yurt type projects here. The master plan shows potential actions aligned with the above strategies as items that may be presented to council for further discussions and deliberations. Following this, we can just sit here for a second. Within the document is the implementation plan that provides some timelines for the strategies and actions, but those may differ depending on the environmental influences. As well as in the end there is the appendixes dedicated, including the restrictive covenant, a summary of the engagement, and the focus group recommendation report. So in conclusion, with the approved Horseshoe Canyon Master Plan, administration will begin implementing strategies and actions by bringing specific projects to council for consideration. The resulting projects from the master plan can have varying degrees of financial and staffing impact. Any projects that align with the master plan will be brought to council through the budgetary process. And council's options today would be to approve the Horseshoe Canyon Master Plan as presented, approve it as amended, or request additional information to bring to a subsequent meeting.
All right, thank you for that. Are there any questions from council, discussion, comment related to the presentation this morning? Councillor McGee.
Well, you guys have done lots of work and it's a great document, and I can't believe I am suggesting we're missing a piece.
Oh no.
I can't believe I haven't actually stated this kind of idea prior in a more firm way. In one of our chapters in this document needs to be about the community development part of it. To oversimplify what I'm trying to say, we see, for example, the Rongor Arena as an important part of building community, and that's why we have invested time and energy into keeping that part of our community. And that piece is also here in this community. It's really the only, in that division, that is the community piece they have. There isn't buildings that can provide that. There's simply a great bunch of ag industry area, primarily agriculture, farming, and this does serve as part of their community, and that needs to be acknowledged in some way in this document as also part of why we're doing this. So when acknowledging that, but also stating that part of this is for them to have a community location. The second piece that I'm worried about, that we need to be maybe more conscious of how to present. This document needs to, in my opinion, acknowledge, have a land acknowledgement for the Indigenous. That's the first step of inviting them, is if we don't even have that in this document, that's offensive. And we need to find a way to do that. In my opinion, it should be right at the very beginning, but you would know better how to properly do that. So those are the pieces that I feel need to be enhanced, to enhance the document.
Councillor Penner.
Just a question for Councillor McGee. Under initial strategies, the next 5 years, it was to establish a voluntary Friends of Horseshoe Canyon group. Could we elaborate more in that area, in that wording, I guess, to do with the community, for this to be the hub of the community kind of thing?
I personally see that as two different things. So I see the Friends of Horseshoe Canyon being kind of like the Egg Society caring for Rongor in that incident. But we are invested as a municipality because this is part of building their community.
I have to understand your thinking in order to be able to help you wordsmith. Okay. Mr. Gannon, I see that.
Thank you very much, through the chair. I really appreciate the comments from council always. Some of the direction that we took within this master plan was to understand a more business-centric direction of attracting businesses. So the community approach was established to expand the Friends of Horseshoe Canyon, but to attract business opportunities to the area, which would be hard to put a community-based approach. Unlike a recreational plan, which Rongor Memorial Arena is, it's used for that community and to bring that community together. If we're looking to attract businesses or things to the area, we may not have that opportunity to create that community-based approach. However, if we are going to be the owners of building an attraction for more than just tourism, that it's going to be a gathering place for the community, I don't believe the document was designed to go full force in that area. However, projects could. So I just wanted to explain the direction of that. We tried to create both opportunities within the document, but the individual projects would give that essence. If, for example, if we were going to an interpretive center and we were going to be the owner versus a partner within that, that would be part of the understanding within that document as council would approve it, is that we need a community-based approach where this could be used by the community or it's bringing the community to that versus solely on a tourism or a business application. So I just want to bring that forward to council to understand, and if there's some adjustments, we can definitely make those adjustments. But from my point of view, changing the centric of that is not a quick fix. It would take some time to really align a stronger community-based approach within this document.
Okay, thank you for that. So I'm hearing that one of your requests might be easier than the other.
And I totally get that the trajectory of this document is being affected by what I'm saying. But if it's a master plan, the master plan should be what the master plan is. And I do not see anything that we as a municipality are doing isn't about the residents first. And though there is motive to make this an economic development plan as well, it's not the sole purpose of this. We have used recreation analogies quite often as to why we are caring for this to begin with. Many of our people utilize this facility, this area for recreation, for hiking and so forth, not much, again, different than a hockey arena. So though it is a different dynamic, it has to be a piece of our overall understanding of what this is about. And the residents need to see that we understand that this is in their community and part of their community. And whether that's addressed by just a paragraph of acknowledging that, or whether it's that we have a chapter that says opportunities, recognizing that this is part of building, this is a community entity, it just is. The locals walk over there and hike it the way the locals in Torrington walk over and skate. And that part needs to be acknowledged because this is the master plan. Master plan for me means everyone's consideration is part of this plan. How we implement those things are where we make the differences between economy and so forth.
Mr. Hogan.
To you, Mr. Chair, one approach to doing this might be the insertion of some verbiage, as Councillor McGee said, around, and I'll maybe phrase it a bit differently, but the exploration of opportunities to create community spaces, where that might be a good hybrid in terms of getting some of that acknowledgement into the plan, while understanding the points that Mr. Gannon made in terms of some of the facilities we're looking at developing out there. If we're looking at third-party partnerships or private industry, might not even be ours. So there's not necessarily an ability that we can control or guarantee some of those functions, but we can explore those. I think there's a tie in there to, are we exploring, or if we create a Friends of the Horseshoe Canyon, do they have the ability to explore those things? And we can make reference to that in the plan, I think. If there's, without changing the core construct of the plan and the focus of it. So as an example, if we're looking at a pavilion or interpretive center, if Kneehill County is building, owning, managing that, we have opportunities that we might not have if a private entity is doing that type of thing. So how those unfold will dictate what opportunities we may have or what money we want to put in to assert some of that control or outcome. But I think if we acknowledge in the plan that we'll explore opportunities for however we word it, whether it's community infrastructure or the creation of community space might be a good way. We can put that in the plan, I think, without changing a lot of the core or what we're doing, and it does give that acknowledgement. The other thing that I think it does is it keeps an alignment, that approach keeps an alignment with the rest of the county. So one of the cautions I'd give council, we do create other recreational features out there that are not just for the local communities, but for the surrounding and for broader as well. Like the Rungor is, Keever's Lake is not just for locals, that's for outsiders as well. So as we go through there and we're looking at that, one of the things the county's not really done is built community halls for communities, right? So I think there's a middle ground there where if we're looking at saying we'll explore those opportunities to create community spaces, then we can do just that, and it's part of the plan. We can explore what those opportunities might be like, and those can be brought back to council as they emerge, so you can ensure that they're aligned with everything else that you're doing. But the acknowledgement of it in the document does say it's something we're going to look at or put an eye towards.
Okay, it's 1:23, and I'm gonna call the council meeting back to order. We are currently discussing 5.4.1, the Economic Development Plan, which we recessed our conversation to have closed session item. So it's always hard to go backwards and wrap your mind around where you're supposed to be. If you're gonna, yeah. Mr. Gannon, sure, go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. As we finished went into the break, some of the conversations was around the indication matrix within the plan on how administration is recommending that we measure success. So we have our key performance indicators, building leadership capacity, strengthening existing businesses, enhancing investment readiness, on page 54, and elevate Kneehill County's brand. Now, our intention was to ensure that this plan, if agreed to, we would take that understanding and build programs and projects to bring to council for consideration, understanding that these would be there. Under those programs and projects, there could be a stronger understanding of what those capacities, what we should be aiming for. But a lot of these we're going to try to hit as many people as we can. We're going to try to understand why we're not hitting certain individuals or certain target markets. So there's going to be a lot of statistical analysis of projects to start with, and the delivery afterwards of re-examining how successful we feel those programs are, and did we see sufficient uptake or usage of these programs to ensure we're staying concurrent with the environment that's within our business industry. So the success matrix of monitoring and reporting, having those opportunities come back to council and have those conversations. Some of the milestones in there are year 1, year 2, and year 3. We are looking, as said previously, we didn't want to create a 4 or 5 year plan because there was a lot of work that we had to do to create some foundational pieces to understand what service delivery models the community needed or wanted, and be able to create those programs and have council approve those programs and detail those service level expectations and deliveries through those programs. So our intention is bring in business retention expansion programs to council for consideration to really understand, because it's a big envelope, business retention expansion. There's different areas within that envelope that you can actually really concentrate on if the business community or council feels that those are areas that we should put as a priority within that envelope. But that's how it was designed. And I do understand what council is talking about is that they would like potentially more stronger KPIs of saying, we want this by this date. If that's the case, we can bring this back to a community whole and say, we're looking at this program underneath the plan, but we want to ensure it gets in front of council for consideration by within the next 6 months, within the next year. And we can detail what we feel within the plan has opportunities for those different programs. But I think that it would open a lot more conversation, and conversation is good because we want to make sure we're going in the right direction. We're rowing the department where council feels is going to be the most effective way.
Okay, thank you for that. Other questions, comments? Councillor McGee, please.
I think to add to that is, I think the overall concern that I'm hearing from you, Councillor Cunningham specifically, is that we're concerned that this higher document becomes your priority of business on your day-to-day work, when maybe there's some small achievables that can be done without, whether we have those documents in place or not, and we'd like to see more momentum happening in that kind of capacity. Are you able to speak to some of those things that you are working on right now, just so we can feel assured that that is happening?
So our goal through this is to always identify that low-lying fruit, right? So that we can start to move forward. So we've already started to look at that business directory, trying to update it. We're also working through the KRP directory to make sure we get that updated. So we're just ready to launch that project. We're also starting to work through another business retention and expansion visitation program. So that's what I'm working, and we've partnered with Olds right now in that project. So we're getting ready to launch that in September, October. So that is going to be that kind of kickoff into getting into the business community to introduce ourselves to them. And then behind the scenes, I'm already starting to, and with Jenna, when she returns, we're going to be looking through that website to update all the links, just getting that initial content updated on the website. So those are things that we're working on right now. We're pulling together grant opportunities and different programs through the province, which a lot of that came out of through the economic development scan. So yes, there is going to be a lot of information, but there's still training on the website that needs to be done, et cetera, in order for us to be able to do that. And then Jenna returns sometime in August, September. So we'll have some more capacity in the department to do that too.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Gannon.
Some additional level of effort that we've redirected some of the work that's actually was normally underneath the Ag department. For example, some of the economic development factors within tourism for Horseshoe Canyon, we're looking at the agri-futures, even though we're looking in collaboration with other departments. Those are some of the areas that are taken forefront. We're looking at the opportunities for ASPs for Horseshoe Canyon and that future look in that area. And we also have our meetings with our partners. So we're involved with conversations with Travel Alberta, Drumheller Tourism within Cape, and we've reached out some more to Calgary Tourism because they do have a large envelope of individuals that do come out to the region, and we want to find ways on how we can use their level of effort and their mandates to enforce council's direction on how do we attract to the region. So those are some of the things that are continuously working in the background. And we've also been exploring our budget on requirements of trying to increase that engagement opportunity. Are we going to community events with a tent or things like that to show this is who we are, this is what what we're here for, to promote our businesses and promote the department, because we do need to revisit who we are and get the community to understand that we're here to support them and what that looks like.
Okay, thank you for that. Go ahead, Councillor Cunningham.
Looking at me like, oh no. So I think you, Mr. Gannon, you might have helped me out a little bit with that, because like I said, I was looking for a little bit more tangible. When I look at success milestones for year 3, available land, to me, that's a really tricky one. So what's our definition of available land? My husband would tell you everything's for sale, but at what price? So I mean, that's a really hard one, because it might be for sale at $5 million a whatever, right? So that's a tricky one. And then just back to that, elevate the county's brand. I just want to say, I did a course last year, and I actually went with the town of Trochu and talked about their Why Trochu marketing. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. If anybody hasn't looked into that, please take the time to look into it. It is just caught fire. They've got the YouTube channel. I believe they rented billboards, I think somewhere out in BC somewhere, and they did like where they were like more at nighttime, so the cost was lower. But that program has just like gone crazy. So those are the kind of things that I guess I'd like to see come back and say, you know, within that, these are maybe the 6 things we're going to aim to do, or things like that. But yeah, that's been a really successful campaign for them. And just one other thing I noticed, there was a section on goals. It looked like you were wanting some training for council. So I just wondered, what awareness and understanding are you looking for from council in terms of economic development? And then you kind of had that with the business community. You wanted to increase their awareness and understanding of economic development. I would actually just flip that around a bit. I would go out to the businesses and ask them, because they are the ones that are living the dream. So instead of telling them what with the awareness and what's good, ask them what's working for them, ask them what's not working for them. So, yeah, just a couple of thoughts that I had, thanks.
Mr. Gannon, go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you so much for the feedback. I'll start with the marketing program that Trochu has. We would love a marketing program and emphasize what is great about Kneehill County and what are we trying to attract. So in order to do that, we do need to create an envelope of understanding of what that program is going to look like. And we talked about it a few times, are we investment ready? Are we trying to attract businesses? Are we trying to attract people? Where is our deficit within the community to ensure that we're ready, that when we do put out this marketing, that our programs, processes, everything is ready to go as these people come in? Because sometimes you only get that one opportunity to really attract that individual through your first deliverance of your marketing program. So we really do want a marketing program, and we do want to emphasize how great Kneehill County is and all the good things that people within Kneehill County and programs and businesses and things have to offer, including and not limited to tourism or local supports. The other aspect when we're moving down the line as far as education, we feel that even as an organization, we only know what we know. And we want to bring industry experts to council. That will feed the general public as well, because as we bring it forward to you, we're educating the local group of what these business agencies like Economic Development Alberta, the federal boards, to really explain what their mandates are, what they do, why it's important, bring some of the direct influencers of that economic development portfolio and what they've done and where they can seek help and why it's important for different programs. Because sometimes we find municipally that sometimes there's a disconnect through what we're trying to do, and sometimes it pushes back to where the provincial strategies are or where the federal strategies are, and sometimes we need to ensure we're aligned a lot better in that way, because that's where the funding models usually come from, and we want to ensure we can tap into them as much as we can. But we do want to educate internally and externally of this is what the experts are doing. Now, what would council like to do with these programs and projects, right? Just so we're all on the same understanding and playing field when we're coming forward and making decisions or providing opportunities. We're going to continue on that education piece. It's not something we're going to stop, because the industry changes consistently and so does the market. So education is going to be one of those foundational pieces, I believe, with this envelope that you'll see will be a consistent approach to re-educating, to reinforcing, to telling that story over and over again if we need to ensure the support mechanisms are there. As we move forward, as far as boots on the ground, I think that was last, is we're making every effort to get out there. We're trying to find out where our biggest bang for our buck is. We want to make sure that we're being strategic in that approach, and we have our marketing information available of what we're providing. So we need to create some programs to show what we're willing to offer. But at the same time, we want to ensure that the envelope, which we'll bring back to council through the budgetary process, is that, for example, if there's a program that's being offered by an outside agency and there's a minimal cost, we would like to be able to offer that to our business people within our community, a certain amount of intake depending on what the budgetary availability is from administration portion. So we want to find mechanisms that when these things come up, because they come up unplanned a lot of times, that we're supporting the communities. So this is where some of those things are being addressed. I hope that I answered the questions effectively and that you understand that we are trying to make great efforts, but we need a strong foundation to move forward. Otherwise, we may lose people that we should be gaining.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? I hope you're getting the kind of feedback you're hoping you would, or maybe you're getting feedback that even you weren't anticipating, but it'll be productive in where we go. One of the comments that I had related to this whole thing is our conclusion page. And I don't want to sound like I'm anti-agriculture because I'm not anti-agriculture. I make my living there and it's paid my bills for many, many years. I'm not sure we're communicating the message that we're not just agriculture and we're not just oil and gas, and that the door is actually open to other opportunities and other potential industries that might show an interest in Kneehill County. So I just, again, we talk about a strong focus on agriculture and the oil and gas industry. We talk about respecting the agricultural heritage, which all of those things are important. And we say it's a crucial strategic imperative for us, but somehow, to me, it almost closes the door on some of those other opportunities because our language is that forceful, I guess. And so the last part of that conclusion, where it talks about business retention and expansion, attracting investment, enhancing brand and marketing efforts, will be pivotal. I think we just need to amplify that a little bit, amp that up a little bit, just so it, maybe it's positionally where it sits or whatever in the document. It just seems like it's an afterthought to me. And so in that conclusion, when you're writing that, it says after agriculture, after oil and gas, then maybe, right? And I think that we need to say that the door is open somehow and to just give a little more attention to that section than we have. And I don't know how we necessarily do it. And it might just because of the way it's positioned in the conclusion that it just seems like an afterthought. And I'm certainly not by any means downplaying the importance of what agriculture and or oil and gas has done for Kneehill County, but as this is our economic development plan looking forward, I'd like to see that focus on the other opportunities to be a little more upfront than it is kind of at the tail of that conversation. Right. Just a comment. Mr. Gannon.
Thank you through the chair. I really appreciate everybody's comments and input on this document, as it's quite pivotal for our organization moving forward and making sure our strategies are strong. I think that we can revisit as we look. I look at the start and I look at a finish of a document. So we have our executive summary looking at the comprehensive plans aim at driving sustainable growth. And I think that that's where I don't think we reinforce that strong enough at the end, as per your comments, that I don't think it needs to be as wholesome. I think we could potentially put it strong enough that we want to be the place of choice for business to live, whatever. It could be a small encompassing statement to say that we want businesses basically to come to Kneehill County to thrive and be prosperous, and for families to be sustainable and live the Kneehill County brand and life. So we could do that in less words and probably more of a visionary statement at the end as a conclusion, versus potentially putting things in there and trying to get everything in the plan into a conclusion area, which may confuse the direction a little bit, depending on how we put it into the paragraph. If that's a direction that council would like to go, I think that might work. I think that if we revisit that and just kind of put it as, kind of like we're putting a mission statement as a conclusion, to really look at that, that's the direction we're aiming at doing. This is our principle, this is what we drive on.
Yeah, and part of the reason I said what I said is that when we've had opportunity to look at other potential industry, and I'm not being specific about anyone, in that often our ag first approach to things can be a bit of a barrier to having that happen. And I think part of the communication that we're doing here is not only outward, but inward. And so when we're communicating to others from the outside saying, we want you to come here, we also need to communicate to our own residents saying, we are inviting business to come here. And if we don't emphasize the fact that we actually want business to come here and that we're prepared to consider whatever opportunities come through the door, both outward and inward, then our own residents don't understand the potential that we are actually maybe looking for some of this to actually happen here, and the importance of that to the economic future of Kneehill County. And so I think this document communicates very well in terms of an outward reach, but not so much necessarily as an inward. And that's why I wanted to emphasize that maybe we just broaden that a little bit. Yeah, I know it's buried in there, but when you're...
Could you take it from here and put it down
Yeah,
there?
and when you're drawing your conclusions, to have that same kind of, like Mr. Gannon has just stated, to just re-emphasize it right at the very end to say that we are looking for you to come and do business and live here. And that's a communication that, like I said, is both outward to the businesses that potentially could come here, and to our own residents for them to help them understand that we are interested in having other business happen here, because that's what's going to help us survive in the long run. And that's what's going to keep our tax for residents and farmland and everything else at a reasonable level, is by having those other businesses come and be here. Go ahead, Councillor McGee.
So I'm now in the wordsmithing crappy part where I don't belong, but crappy would be right. The area of which would be called weeds that I should be leaving to you. But I have a philosophy that I need to share that I get excitable about. These documents are not for those of us who know this. These documents are for people who have zero understanding about what we're talking about. And sometimes that vocabulary makes a huge difference in how it's received. And I would say, because we know what we're talking about, this last page is excellent. Someone freshly out of grade 12 who wants to know what kind of business they want to start up here, that it's right. And so how do we say it? I would love to say, and part of that piece then for me is your first few sentences have to capture that type of person. So as opposed to putting what you were suggesting as a conclusion, Mr. Gannon, I would suggest that should be your beginning, because we want to capture people first, because if we don't have them captured, they're not going to see the beginning, the end. So that's just my philosophy on how to write some of these things. But do with it what your expertise knows better than I.
Doesn't hurt to repeat yourself. So if it's in your executive summary and in your conclusion that emphasizes that reality, that that's what we're about, then it's a good thing. So. Okay, are there any other comments or direction or questions for administration or for ourselves? Are we happy where we have ended up? Ms. Brandt, have we given you plenty of information to work with?
You have given me plenty.
She says ever so politely. So where we're at is, I guess I'm looking for, we're basically requesting that administration update with the amendments we've talked about or with the changes we've discussed today and come back to us. Is that my understanding correct? Mr. Gannon?
Thank you through the chair. The one question that I do have is there was some significant conversation on KPIs and deliverables, and I want to make sure that we're addressing that as well. So is this a topic that, would you like us to bring this at the next council or the next committee of the whole? Do you want more fruitful conversation within council to understand what that dynamic looks like within the document? We want to make sure we're bringing it to the proper meeting to ensure we're moving forward, what level of effort and changes are we going to do within council's expectation? I know some of the delivery models and things are yet to be worked on, but I want to make sure that the document, council feels comfortable as a majority that this document is going to be good with these changes moving forward. If we need more conversations through committee of the whole, we would love to have more of those conversations and bring material that council can consider.
Okay, so I guess direction from those who are interested in the deliverable side of things and the measurements. Do you feel we've given enough information? Do you want to see it come back to a committee of the whole for a more lengthy discussion, or are you happy with it coming back to a council? Councillor Cunningham.
I have to think back a long time to what I said this morning, so that's been a few hours. But no, I guess actually I'm going to put that back on you. Do you feel that we gave you enough information? Like, I think what I was trying to get across was I just felt some of the KPIs were a little too broad. And so I was looking more for like to dial it down a little bit. In the next 6 months, we hope to reach out to 10 businesses, do 10 business visits. In the next 6 months, we hope to do 2 agribusiness spotlights or business spotlights, that haven't, unfortunately, we just haven't been able to do to staff in the last while. Those are the kind of things I'm looking for, because it seems very broad to me, if that makes sense.
Mr. Gannon, go ahead.
Thank you through the chair and to Councillor Cunningham. My normal process within a master plan through my career was it's more of a higher level document. Those deliverables that you're talking about in those essences are the program deliverables. So I think that we can come back with potentially some programs that would address those items and say that these are the type of programs that would address those. When would you like to see it in the 3-year time frame? So we can bring that program back to council for consideration, and then you can look at those service level deliveries through that program to say, this is the direction we would like to go, or this is the direction we wouldn't like to go. But I think that identifying the different programs within those 3 years and when you'd like to see them within, we can work on that. And I would suggest that if we're going to that degree, I think we come back to the committee of the whole for the conversation of that program, because programs can be complicated. So there may be more discussion that you may want to have on the delivery of programming, and I don't feel we'd be able to address that effectively for all council to have consideration through a regular council meeting.
Okay, so then the motion we'd be looking for would be to bring back to a future committee of the whole. Okay, so are we prepared to leave this conversation at this point where it is? And Councillor McGee.
I'm not sure if I'm processing what you just said correctly. Are you saying we want to have this high-level document, and then there would be a second discussion and a second document around the program service deliverables?
Mr. Gannon, go ahead.
Thank you through the chair and to Councillor McGee. No, it's not a separate document. It would be put into the master plan as what programs council would like us to bring for consideration to council in which year. So when we're developing our budget and moving those things forward, we understand business retention expansion is going to address potentially these concerns. We're going to bring that in front of council to consider and approve through the budgetary process, and that program will be managed through normal budgetary process in council. So once that program and those service levels are brought back for consideration and we do our work, council will be able to decide on those service levels. So the program is married to the plan, right? That's how we intend to do that.
Okay, so are we happy with where we're sitting right now and that we're prepared to make a motion to come back to this at a future committee of the whole? No one's made that motion, so it's still quite editable. Okay, if we're done with the conversation, I'm looking for a motion that would give direction. Councillor Cunningham.
I'll move that council direct administration to update the 3-year economic development plan and bring back to a future committee of the whole meeting.
Okay, so we do have that motion. Is there any further discussion or conversation? First and foremost, I want to say thank you very much, Ms. Gabrant, for your patience with us as council and for bringing the document and for being willing to hear our concerns and go back and address them. So thank you for that. If there no further discussion, the motion is council direct administration to update the 3-year economic development plan and bring back to a future committee of the whole meeting. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. And once again, thank you. Okay, we're moving on our agenda to 5.3.1, Protective Services, Bylaw 1903, Unsightly Premises Bylaw. And welcome Ms. Grossfield and Ms. Hazelton. Welcome. And anytime you're ready. And thank you for your patience.
Good afternoon, Council. Thank you. Today, we're presenting a draft proposed unsightly premises bylaw number 1903. So just to kind of go over some past information that we've gone through. So relevant legislation, just a reminder that the Municipal Government Act, Section 546, goes over the orders to remedy dangers in unsightly property. And this includes an unsightly condition that is defined in here in respect to a structure whose exterior shows a significant physical deterioration, or in respect of land that shows signs of serious disregard for general maintenance or upkeep. Also in section 546.1, it talks about in the opinion of a designated officer in regards to unsightly properties. So that is in the act as well, the discretion part of unsightly. We also have an existing bylaw, nuisance and unsightly bylaw 1630, that was attached in the packages as well. So this is proposed to repeal that bylaw. At the December 5th, 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting, Council requested information regarding our process. Unsightly Premises Bylaw 1630 is currently in place, which allows for enforcement of unsightly properties within hamlets only. For any properties outside of hamlets, the MGA would apply under municipal inspections and enforcement, order to remedy contraventions, and order to remedy dangerous and unsightly properties. The Planning Department and Protective Services Department work together on many files as they impact not only the land use, but also the general premises. Typically, the Peace Officer Program initiates with emphasis on education, allowing for deadline extensions if individuals exhibit signs of compliance. Adopting a ticket-first approach in such cases has proven to impede the timely resolution of issues. When legal processes become necessary for a file, it can significantly prolong the resolution time and the efforts. So the level of success was reviewed at that Committee of the Whole meeting, and then in the last 5 years, Protective Services had 85 bylaw calls, and that included these specifically for unsightly, such as snow, grass files, fencing, unsightly, and garbage. And again, these are for in Kneehill County, and they include both hamlets and some egg properties. And then planning, then we also had unsightly property files. So Hesketh, we had 2, Torrington, we had 8, Sunny Slope 2, Huxley 7, Swalwell 13, rural, as in Kneehill County 5, and then some were referred to RCMP if there was suspicious activities. In the last 10 years, planning had 76 files, 11 in hamlets and 65 in Kneehill County. And so those would be pertaining to the actual use of lands. February 20th, Committee of the Whole meeting, Council reviewed the comparison of existing unsightly premises bylaw with Mountain View County and Wheatland County's bylaws. The key points discussed included jurisdiction. Ours, again, only is in effect for hamlets specifically. We also went over warning letters, accumulating matter, dangerous and unsafe properties, and vegetation growth, and derelict vehicles. Administration provided options for other tools and proactive approaches to consider cleaning up properties that aren't ticket-based, such as community cleanups. The Committee of the Whole gave direction to administration to come back to a future COW meeting and compare more bylaws. And so we did that on May 21st. We compared Kneehill County, Red Deer, Mountain View, Rocky View, Wheatland, and Lethbridge counties on topics such as nuisance and unsightly definitions, agriculture property enforcement, the derelict vehicles, enforcement tools, and fines. Direction to continue with the drafting of the new bylaw that included agricultural and all properties within the jurisdictions. All other county comparators did have agriculture provisions within their bylaws. June 18th, Committee of the Whole meeting, Council reviewed the legal comments on the draft bylaw. Adding agricultural properties would not add liability because we have built in enough discretion in the bylaw. There is still an opportunity to act upon these properties that pose a public safety risk. Through this bylaw, in a more detailed process, we are able to use the MGA as well. Frivolous complaints can be combated by the clause that we'll use our discretion in investigating the complaints. And discussion on derelict vehicles and discretion around these still remains and has been considered in what we presented to you today. To reflect the land use bylaw, a clause was inserted into the new proposed unsightly bylaw to be specific for residential areas when it comes to those derelict vehicles. Discussion and options. As part of our initial initiative to update the bylaw, we also reviewed our enforcement process, and we have a 7-step process just to ensure that there's consistency in the approach. Initial complaint is received, and that is reviewed and may be opened either with planning or enforcement, and investigation may or may not occur, depends if it's deemed actionable. Verbal call or visit to the property if further investigation is needed. Third step is an unsightly premises letter. If they're non-compliant, a warning letter may be sent. A check on the property for progress. Ticketing doesn't always lead to a cleanup, but that still is an option at that point. Before you go into the remedial order process, where you will involve courts into those and possibly cleanup costs. A stop order is issued, again, that's more under the land use bylaw for a land use bylaw infraction. And these can, again, be very complicated, need to be well documented, and can be very costly. Should there be a complaint about an approved development in ag districts or in hamlets, we would refer that file to the planning department to ensure that the conditions are being met within their timeframes. These complaints would not be part of the unsightly premises process. It does go under the land use bylaw enforcement process for anything that's a development. We work collaboratively with other internal departments and agencies just to seek resolution. Every unsightly premises file is unique, and the courts consider this when they're going through the enforcement process. Even though there are many potential contraventions across our lands, they are seen as individual files. So made a suggested amendment to the bylaw presented at the COW meeting on June 18th. And so basically part 4.10 is the accumulation of animal material, yard material, and motor vehicles on a property designated or permitted for use as agricultural land shall not constitute an unsightly property under this bylaw, so as long as, in the opinion of the designated officer, the accumulation is not considered excessive given the scope and scale of the activity, and specifically for motor vehicles are not visible from public property, as we had talked about. A markup draft was provided, as well as a clean version to reflect the changes that have been made. Financial and staffing implications. So internally, we continue to work on the files under our daily processes and procedures, and our capacity to enforce the files are dependent on council's expectations on the level of service through the bylaw. But right now, we do act on a complaint basis only. But we will continue to enforce through that stepped process. And there's 5 options for council to consider. You can approve first reading of the bylaw, first and second reading of the bylaw, approve all 3 readings, again, with an unanimous passing to continue to third reading in one meeting, or to defeat any of the readings, and then this would keep the bylaw 1630 in place. And council may consider surveying the public on this bylaw or request any additional information.
Thank you.
It's a novel.
It's been a process and it's been worthwhile, so thank you. Are there questions, comments, discussion related to unsightly premises bylaw 1903? I'm not seeing any. So have we answered all the questions and dealt with all the concerns that have been raised through the process? Councillor McGee.
Well, then I will make the first motion to approve the first reading of bylaw 1903 unsightly premises.
Okay, so Councillor Penner has moved that we, oh, sorry, Councillor Penner. Councillor McGee, you're sitting side by side and it is after lunch. Thank you. Yes, Councillor McGee made the motion that council approve first reading of bylaw 1903 on unsightly premises. Is there any discussion? Deputy Reeve Whitstock.
Well, thank you very much. It has been a long and enduring process. As far as I understand, there is already a mechanism to deal with dangerous and unsightly properties within the county using the MGA, correct? Yes. Okay, so adding this bylaw, that would entail probably additional staff time, additional costs, and work for our county employees. And we're also intruding, well, we're not really intruding on residents' rights or their lives, but by adding a bylaw, we actually are, in my view. And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think we're fixing a problem that doesn't exist. And I'm sorry, but I can't support the bylaw. I mean, if we have a way to deal with it the way it is now, I'm fine with it. I don't want to see our county staff enduring extra work because of neighbors' disputes, which I think is what we're going to probably bring into view here. So regardless of that, those are my concerns, and I will leave it at that. But thanks for the work.
Okay, thank you for that, Deputy Reeve Whitstock. Are there any further comments or discussion related to the motion to approve first reading of bylaw 1903 on unsightly premises? Councillor Cunningham.
So I guess I would just wonder how the rights are different between hamlets and people that live on acreages or other ag districts, but anyhow, I guess the question I'd have for administration, you've shown us very clearly and very well done that other municipalities do that. So I guess my question would be, why would we not do that? Like, not that we have to do everything that everybody else does, but there obviously is a reason that other municipalities are doing that. So what is the benefit? Does it give you another mechanism to help with what you do, or could you just help me out with that a little bit?
Yeah, through the chair, it basically doesn't jump straight to an order, right? The MGA jumps straight to an order. And so there's many tools and layers that you can do with enforcement before you jump to the order. It doesn't mean that we can't send out a warning letter. It's just when they're not in contravention of a bylaw, where it actually specifically says there's a contravention, that's the tool a bylaw gives you, is actually just, it kind of like more specifies different contraventions and different fines that we can have as a step in there before you go to the MGA in the order.
Thank you.
Okay, so we all, I think, through this process have become very aware of the convoluted nature of trying to get a landowner necessarily to be in compliance with this bylaw or with what the MGA provides us to do. We are not changing our enforcement philosophy in any way. It's still based on complaint. And any investigation or follow-up on that complaint will be carried out once it's determined whether it's valid or not. So there's always that discretionary element in there for either the designated officer or the enforcement officer to determine whether that complaint is frivolous or not, and whether further action is taken. Okay. Thank you for that clarity. Is there any further discussion to the motion to give first reading to bylaw 1903? If not, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Okay. What do we want to do next? I have a question, actually. So you mentioned, and we have said as a council that we're interested in hearing from our ratepayers. Is there value in us asking the ratepayers to weigh in on this bylaw? We've done first reading. We could do second reading. We could do third reading. I guess my question is, and I'm sorry, Ms. Grossfield, but you did bring it up. Is there value in maybe going on our media or however we do that to say this is a proposed bylaw that's received first reading, and give a time period in which we ask for comment from our ratepayers and ask them to consider the changes that we're making in terms of the application beyond hamlets and those kind of things, and just say, is this something that would be supported or not? And I'm just asking the question because I heard the comment and I see a bit of reluctance around where we might be headed this way. Are we sure that the direction we're going is the direction we want to go? And I know we've had many, many discussions about it in council and in cow meetings and other places, but that does not necessarily mean that ratepayers have felt consulted on it or not. Councillor Penner?
I don't think it hurts. You might see if it is a priority, not for our ratepayers, on the response that we get. How many are interested in changing, existing ones and stuff like that. So, but I mean, we're not going to send out we've got to pick which media we're going to use to do this. So which is the best media?
Councillor McGee?
You know me, I just think public engagement, public engagement, public engagement. If we had more money, we'd have a lot more of it already. So I'm always seeing that as a great idea. In this example though, because we put a lot of time and money into something already adapting it, I'd like to see a very simple version of that and a very fast-paced one. So online survey, whatever comes up, but something that's simple.
Okay. I mean, we could say no to that too. Like, I just threw it out there. I was thinking of 7 individuals who just said recently that they wanted to have more input into council policy. Anyway, Councillor Christie.
I guess my thought is, could we handle it like a development direction and have a public hearing at the next council meeting? And advertise it as that to see what people have to say.
Mr. Hogan, I guess we'd be looking to you for direction on that.
Through Mr. Reeve, yeah, we could come up with a mechanism similar to that. I don't know that it would be a full-blown public hearing, but I'd have to look into the legislation on that to see what we would actually classify that as. But the idea in concept, we could have some sort of input or something like that take place on it. I would say likewise, probably the simplest thing would be for us to advertise it in the paper and on our social media and give a deadline for written submissions. That might enable it to bring individuals who might not be able to attend that public hearing would still then weigh in that way.
Councillor Penner?
And like this has a lot to do with agriculture. So, and we're getting into the really busy season here. So the next meeting or the next two might be not the option if we were doing a public hearing thing.
So because of that, would a sort of written submission time frame and just advertising the fact that we are considering this bylaw, maybe highlighting some of the changes that are perhaps most notable, so that people can see what is being proposed and then just give them a time frame in which they could respond. I know I opened this can of worms, so it's kind of my fault. But. Councillor Cunningham.
So, remind me, go back, we started this process in what month?
December or something.
December, okay. So to me, our agendas are available online, comes out on our Facebook page saying we do this. Like, this has not been a secret to anybody. I know I've talked to some ratepayers about it. To date, the only people that I've talked to are very happy that this is coming forward. I'm sure there's some that aren't, but I haven't heard from them yet. I'm just wondering, so if we put it out in some, whether it's social media or whatever medium we decide, what's going to be your measurement? So if you have 6 people that say no and 5 that say yes, what are you doing with that? So are we going to do this going forward with, like, are we setting a precedence? I guess, like I said, it's not, I hate to go back to the landfill, but that, what I heard from that seemed like a surprise to people. This has not been a surprise. This has been out in the public, like, now we said for 6-7 months. So I think people have had a lot of time to comment on it. That's just my opinion.
Okay, well, unless I see another motion, then we are going to continue to converse in this direction. So we've had first reading, and what I would say is I'm either entertaining a motion that we go towards some kind of engagement with the public, or we're going towards second reading. Councillor McGee.
Oh, just to keep you guys jumping and guessing. I want to be unpredictable and say I would like to make the motion that council provides second reading to bylaw 1903, unsightly premises.
Okay, and the motion's from Councillor McGee that council provides second reading to bylaw 1903, unsightly premises. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Are there any other motions coming forward at this time? The process would be that we make a motion to give consent to third reading. Councillor McGee, thank you.
I'd like to make the motion that we provide unanimous consent for third reading to bylaw 1903.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further discussion to that motion? If not, I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is defeated, and we will address it in the next council meeting. Thank you, ladies, for your time. All right, the next item on our agenda is 6.1, bylaw 1898. Town of Trochu Senior Living Complex Borrowing Bylaw. And Ms. Cochran, that's you.
Thank you, Council. Mr. Reeve. I'm here to present the Town of Trochu Senior Living Complex Borrowing Bylaw for second and third reading. As you may recall, Council gave first reading to Bylaw 1898 on May 28th, 2024, and the bylaw was advertised on our county website and in the Capital on June 12th and 19th, and we received no responses. As a quick reminder, the Town of Trochu proposes to construct a seniors living complex within its boundaries, estimated at about $32 million. The Town of Trochu Housing Corporation is a municipal corporation of which Trochu is the sole owner, and they will oversee the project. And with our support, with Kneehill County's support, they will be able to secure the funding necessary to build the seniors complex. And I will leave it to the motions for discussion.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any questions, comments, discussion related to this request for a decision related to the Town of Trochu Senior Living Complex Borrowing Bylaw? If not, if there's no discussion, I would entertain a motion. Councillor Christie.
If there's no discussion, I'd make the motion to give second reading to bylaw 1898, that being the borrowing bylaw for the Town of Trochu Seniors Living Complex.
Okay, thank you for that. We have a motion that we give second reading to bylaw 1898, the borrowing bylaw for the Town of Trochu Seniors Living Complex. Any discussion to that motion? Councillor Cunningham.
I just wanted to comment that I actually did have a couple questions come forward about this bylaw, and Reeve King and Mr. Hogan provided ample and wonderful information for that. So I just think there was a little bit of concern about where the responsibility would leave the county should things maybe go south. So I don't know if there's any cause to kind of provide information, but I think I felt very comfortable after receiving that information that we have done our due diligence to make sure that we are looked after as Kneehill County and wouldn't be left responsible.
Okay, thank you for that. Were you looking for additional comment on that, or just you just wanted to make sure that you felt that the due diligence had been in place?
Yeah, because like I said, just recently had the two questions come, and so I didn't know if it's out there in the public, but I just want the public to know that we haven't entered into this agreement lately, and we are making sure we're taking care of Kneehill County. We want to see this project proceed, and we're all, I think, excited, but we have taken care of the interests of Kneehill County as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other comments to the motion from Councillor Christie that we give second reading to bylaw 1898? If not, I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor? And that motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Penner.
I'd make the motion that council give the third and final reading of bylaw 1898, that being the borrowing bylaw for the Town of Trochu Seniors Living Complex.
Okay, thank you for that. So we have a motion from Councillor Penner that we give third and final reading to bylaw 1898, that being a borrowing bylaw for the Town of Trochu Seniors Living Complex. Is there any discussion or comment to that motion? Not seeing any, I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And thank Mr. Hogan.
Through Mr. Reeve, with that having been done, this has kind of emerged as an item as well, and I'll put it out there for council's consideration. We have an existing agreement with the Town of Trochu, with THC, around outlining all this. It was a condition of that bylaw. That agreement needs to be updated now. What we're wondering about is administration. If council is good with the updates to that agreement, need to be the interest rate and the dates. The rest of the agreement is there. If council has an option, given that we don't have another council meeting until late August, and I know there's some movement on the housing side of this that they want to get going, knowing that those are the only updates, I'm wondering if council would entertain authorizing the Reeve and myself to sign an updated agreement reflecting the changed interest rates and dates. The rest of the agreement would stay the same as the one we've already got in place. If you're not comfortable with that, then we'd bring that back in August. It's not our normal course of the way we would do that, but there has been some requests from Trochu to move that along because I think there's some other things on the provincial side that are moving. So if council has a comfort level with that, then we could make that motion here today too.
Councillor Penner.
I'll put the motion out there and have more discussion after if you'd like. I'm all for it, that the council authorize the Reeve and the CIO to sign an updated agreement for the town of Trochu Seniors, keep going, Carol. I'm sure they have it. Seniors
No pressure.
Complex, living complex.
Have a cup of coffee.
Reflect. Okay. So I'll just say all of that, that the council authorised the Reeve and the CIO sign an updated agreement for the town of Trochu Seniors Living Complex reflecting the updated dates and interest rate.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion from Councillor Penner that council authorized the Reeve and the CAO to sign an updated agreement for the town of Trochu Seniors Living Complex, reflecting the updated dates and interest rates. So, any discussion? If not, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Covered that little technicality. All right, the next item on our agenda is 7.1, Three Hills and Acme 2024 FCSS Community Discovery Nights. And Ms. Vanderkoel, are you taking this one?
I am going to take this one.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I bring to you today, Agenda 7.1, the Three Hills and Acme 2024 FCSS Community Discovery Night. This is an event that takes place annually in the community. FCSS is the organizer of this event. It's a trade show style format where certain support and community groups come together and provide information to area residents. Kneehill County normally partakes in these events. The peace officers share a table with the area councillors, and it's a great opportunity for council members to visit with people in the community and have a chance to answer any questions they might have. If council wishes to attend again, we do not require a motion for attendance, but just to let administration know who wishes to attend and for council to make a motion to receive this report for information. This year's Three Hills Discovery Night will take place on Wednesday, September 4th at the Three Hills Curling Rink, and the Acme Discovery Night will take place on Wednesday, September 11th at the Acme Community Center. That is the end of my report. If anybody has any questions.
Are there any questions? Councillor Cunningham.
Not a question, but I will plan to attend the Three Hills one. And I do understand that's part of the base rate, similar to open houses, public meetings, that type of thing. So I will be there.
Okay. I think this, we are just going to approve attendance for council members who can be there. And so thank you for letting us know that you're going to attend. I know on the 11th of September, I think I have 2 other obligations already. So, anyway. So, what we would be looking for, I guess, would be I guess if we receive for information, that's enough. That just authorizes councillors to attend if they can. Correct?
Yep, that is correct. And closer to the event, if you want to let me know if you're attending or not, or just show up at the event. The peace officers will be there and we'll have giveaways to give to the people in the public that show up.
Okay. Councillor or Deputy Reeve Whitstock.
I would move that council receive for information the Three Hills and Acme Community Discovery Night report.
Okay, thank you for that. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, I have had a request for a brief recess, so we are in recess till 2:35. Okay, I'm going to call our meeting back to order. It's 2:37. And the next order of business on our agenda is 7.2, AUC Rule 007 Amendment. And welcome, Ushba. And here's your first chance to present to council. So, yeah, and a fun file. No, we're very happy you're here today, and so anytime you're ready, you just go right ahead.
Well, thank you, Reef King. Good afternoon, Council. Today, I bring before you a document that is looking to receive your feedback in regards to the AUC Rule 007 and the review that it's going through. So for a little bit of a background, at the request of the Government of Alberta, the Alberta Utilities Commission paused approval on all new renewable energy power plant proposals. This 7-month pause on project approvals was lifted in February 2024, and this was followed by the introduction of new interim requirements alongside Rule 007 of the AUC. So this rule relates to applications for power plants, substations, transmission lines, industrial system designations, hydro developments, and gas utility pipelines. The AUC has established a written process to gather input and feedback on the following topics: methodology for visual impact assessments, draft municipal engagement form, appropriate value for field of view, and glare assessment for solar plant, power plant applications. The AUC's review is not limited to the topics above, and the AUC will accept feedback on and consider other aspects of the rule as part of this review, including comments on any ambiguities, requested clarifications, or opportunities for increased efficiency. Alberta's power grid includes 26,000 kilometers of transmission lines and connects to 426 quality generating units. There has been a push to integrate renewable energy systems into electric grids, but there are several challenges. Challenges that the AUC acknowledges and is now attempting to mitigate with these amendments. The interim information requirements emphasize 5 key sections: agricultural land, municipal land use, viewscape protection, reclamation security, and municipal involvement. So in terms of discussions and options, it is clear that the implications for Kneehill County are going to be multifaceted and significant. Additional restrictions may pose challenges for the development of wind and solar projects by limiting their locations, particularly on lands that are considered prime for agriculture. While this may be the case, Kneehill County is concerned that our views and interests are not represented in the current process and feels additional municipal involvement is needed. This is a move to ensure that the county's agricultural interests and picturesque rural viewscapes are preserved. Increased municipal involvement means that the approval process for such projects will now be more transparent, allowing for greater municipal insight and participation. This change underscores the county's commitment to maintaining open communication channels and fostering trust within the community. Now, to ensure that the written submission accurately reflects Council's concerns, administration is asking Council to identify their concerns. To assist Council with this task, administration suggests that the following be considered: that the municipal planning documents be given more weight and consideration in AUC decision-making, how the development will contribute to the stability of Alberta's electricity grid, with the goal being assurance that energy can be provided at any time, what is the threshold that needs to be met for renewable energy to coexist with agricultural activities, how would meaningful co-location be quantified, what would measuring agricultural activities within renewable energy power plants look like, that reclamation security decisions with the developers of power plants be done with the province instead of the county, and that the engagement form be mandatory and the proponent be responsible for filling it out, as they are the ones that are looking to place their projects in the county. In addition, that the county be contacted after the form has been submitted to the AUC to verify form contents and address any concerns that they may have not listed in the form. that the municipal engagement form also include how the project complies with the county strategic plan, to endorse consideration of environmental factors, to include end-of-life considerations within the municipal engagement form, as well as assess the viability of using a field of view of 25 degrees for local roads and 50 degrees for highways, railways, flight paths regarding solar glare assessments. So the council options today are to provide administration with concerns relating to the AUC rule or decline to participate in the written submission related to the AUC rule.
Okay, thank you for that. Council, questions, comments, discussion, direction, and I think we need another 10-minute break to recharge our batteries. Okay, we're just getting our engines revved up. Councillor Cunningham.
Sorry, yeah, I'm just kind of looking at my notes and then just comparing with the motion. So can you remind me again, and great job, by the way, excellent. When is the deadline for submission? I know we missed the verbal, but when is the deadline for the written?
Yeah, so that's going to be September 3rd.
Okay, so we have a bit of time. Okay. So, and again, I think I was the one that suggested this, so I'm not sure why I don't know the answer to this, but so how detailed are they looking for us to put, like, we talk about our bylaws, but like, should we put in there like what our setbacks are, like height of the turbines, how far they have to be to adjacents, or are we just saying we want them to consider, like you say, the first, give more weight to the municipal planning documents? Like, is that kind of enough, or are we wanting to go more detailed, do you think? That makes sense.
Through the chair, I think a lot of it has to do with just the very basic requirements that we need with not too much specifics.
Any other comments or questions? I mean, when you read Rule 7 and the attached appendixes and all of the tables and, so the things that stood out to me are some of the things that we outlined in our letter to the Premier around how little value is placed on municipal bylaws, land use bylaws, municipal development plans, and input, and how much lip service is paid to valuing our participation. And so I appreciate the fact that in here, we are definitely suggesting that our planning documents and our input be given much greater emphasis or weight. To me, it seems like that should have been something that went without saying, I guess. And so the comments that you made specifically related to the municipal engagement form, I think that's critical that the proponent be the one that is required to fill that out and to show that they have addressed the municipal concerns in a way that is very specific, and to show that they've actually shared that and whether those concerns have been resolved with their answers. To me, that's very, very important. And then the other thing that we addressed in our letter to the Premier around the reclamation side of things was relating to what is the plan. And so right now they have to have a plan. They have to share that with AUC, but they don't really have to tell anybody else what that plan looks like and how that's going to be factored and what kind of monies are being set aside, or have they set any security aside. And so I think that it's important that since they're building that infrastructure within our municipality, that we be aware of what that plan is and that they share that with us. in a lot of cases, it's interesting to me that they say that it has to be, like AUC in their rule says, you have to do this and you have to circulate it. And then you have to show us, AUC, that you've circulated it. Well, how do they prove that they actually circulated it to the individuals that are concerned? So if I, or a resident landowner, or an organization within Kneehill County has a concern that's been raised, they can go to AUC and say, this was a concern raised, we addressed it. How did you address that? Was it resolved? Was it resolved to the satisfaction of the individual or organization that raised that concern? If not, do you have any plans to do anything different? To me, it just seems like there's a lot of things in there that says you have to report to AUC, but you don't have to report. And so I look at some of those things that are in there. I look at the participant involvement program and the way it's laid out in AUC's Rule 7. And I go, they have all these wonderful things that are supposed to happen. But all they have to do is go to AUC and say, we had one. These are the people who attended, and we addressed the concerns raised. But there is no real qualification for, did you actually, how do you verify that you gave all those individuals who had concerns the time and attention and that you have addressed them? Or how do you verify that anyone who claimed that they might be affected by the development has even been heard? Who proves that you listened? Who proves that you actually talked to those people who raised the concern? And so, to me, everything that you have in here is very, very important for us to address and to put in there. And your summary is bang on. There's some real gaps in terms of the verification process and who gets notified of what. And so to me, those are things that I wouldn't mind seeing just sort of fleshed out a bit more. And I know these aren't the exact words that are going to be used in the letter to the AUC or to the written submission, but I'd like to see those things fleshed out a bit more, just in terms of that accountability side for the proponent. Councillor McGee.
And just to sum up what you're saying, a lot of what is in this document appears to be to appease us as opposed to have actionable, quantifiable outcomes from it. And so why are we asking them to do this? Just so that they do it? Or is it so that it has a meaningful outcome from it for the residents and the municipality? And I don't see a meaningful outcome as a result of how they've got things written so far. I did like that they have the municipality wanting to sign off on the question, the referral letter that they are suggesting be used. So then it does force a conversation and our input. And I think that is, to me, a little bit more meaningful than what I've seen or trusted would happen. So, but how do we make those other points meaningful and worthwhile? Because notifying people, this is the way it is, yeah, we heard you yell and scream, and we don't like hearing yelling and screaming, so we're canceling open houses, is not the answer.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. Sure, Councillor Cunningham. I see that smile.
Oh, I love this stuff, you know. So what about, like I said, I'm not really sure how detailed we're gonna get with this, but like, you know, questions come about collector lines. Does the municipality have the jurisdiction over them if they're not on private land? Is that something we put in there? And I love that you put the piece about the agriculture activities, but like, who's gonna monitor that? So if a project goes through and they put out 40 sheep for 6 months and then they move them off, like, does that appease that then? Or like, is there like, does it have to be the length of the project? Like, I would like more information on that, like what, and I did ask Minister Newdorf that, like, what is going to appease that portion of the agriculture component, but I couldn't get an answer at that time, so I'm hoping we get a little more clear indication of that, but collector lines would be a huge one. Lay down yards, does the municipality have any say in that, like with traffic, noise, dust, et cetera? Those type of things I think would be important.
Any other comments or questions, discussion? Councillor McGee.
I really like I was looking to find the word for what a handful of us attended online, where we discussed what is a good forward movement for the energy sector. And in that, one of our own brought up the point how these projects don't seem to be equitable across the province. And I don't think AUC is the person to address this, and I don't know if there's a way we could incorporate it. But why is it going on ag land when there are high rises, would be an example. Is there a way to suggest, is this truly the best location for what you're doing? Have other locations been considered? I don't know if we can express that in a way, but I really liked that part of that conversation. And it goes back to that. Quit dumping on this area only of where you bring these opportunities. I think these opportunities have other great places that they could go to, and I'd like to see that that's been researched and considered.
Go ahead, Councillor Cunningham.
Just to follow up with what Councillor McGee said, I know the city of Calgary, in collaboration probably with Stampede Parker, How It Work, just built the BMO Center, and I've been able to go there a couple times. I don't see any solar panels on those buildings. Drive by the large warehouses that are going up in Rocky View County, don't see any solar panels on those. So further to your comment, I think there's definitely a question. We've always said we don't see any on Nose Hill Park in Calgary. Okay. But what about these huge, is the new Calgary Arena gonna incorporate that into their building? I don't know, but again, why us, not you? When we know that a majority of the power, well, there isn't a lot of power generated, but the power that does usually is going back to the city anyways. But.
Councillor Forbes.
And that would bring me back to the discussion around public interest. Does the AUC's definition of the public interest include the cities taking and mitigating for their own power usage instead of it always being just out here in farmland being taken out of? I struggle with that a little bit because the public interest, and that's what they're giving us as the reason why we have to take this without having consulting us. Then the public interest in the cities in the larger centers, it doesn't have to just be Calgary, Edmonton, Lethbridge, Red Deer, Medicine Hat, all of the larger centers require power. So what are they doing to mitigate their power issues where they are instead of it always being put on us?
Well, unfortunately, some of this stuff I think is really, the province hasn't defined very well some of these things. What's coexistence with agriculture and exactly what does that mean? How is that supposed to be delineated within an application? What is really public interest? Is just more power public interest, or is food on grocery store shelves public interest? And so there's a lot of things that they pay really, you know, what is municipal participation in the consultation process? And really, is there any weight to be given to that, or is it always going to be trumped by the phrase, it's in the public interest, right? So if that's the absolute trump card, then I want that trump card defined very clearly as to what that is. who has real oversight over AUC? I mean, in the letter that they sent to us regarding the last decision, they clearly outlined that they feel that they are above anybody's oversight. Because they said that even the province doesn't have the right to impede their hearings and their decision-making process. And that is a question that we brought up to the Premier when I wrote the letter to her. But really, who has oversight? And to what point is there some limitation on their ability to do whatever they jolly well please? So those are the things. There's so much vagueness in how they define and how they operate. And there seems to be a lot of autonomy without any accountability. And that's concerning to all Albertans, really. It's not just us people who live in rural Alberta who are concerned about that. The people who live in the cities and the big centers, they don't necessarily have to face it every day, but they still have to deal with the consequences of unreliability of that electrical grid that's all of a sudden dependent on sun and wind. Well, what if the wind's not blowing and it's dark and it's -40 and there's not enough power? Then all of us collectively in Alberta are going to pay a price for that. And I read articles all the time about countries that are championing the fact that they've gone all green power. Heaven forbid they ever have something that go wrong with the green power, because they don't have a backup anymore. So it's concerning, and we hear it over and over and over again, so. Councillor Cunningham.
Just one more for me. Just further to that, Reeve King, it was funny because I had a conversation with somebody from the city, a really good conversation around renewable energy. And so we were kind of going back and forth, and I said to them, how close do you live to a renewable facility? And she turned to me and she says, well, I'd have no idea. So it's interesting. People have a lot of opinions when they actually haven't seen them or visited them or whatever. But so I'm just wondering, in terms of like population density, is that something that they're going to consider in this? And then what would their threshold be for that?
Councillor McGee.
Again, I'm struggling with whether this belongs in this conversation, but I also really feel that there's a huge concern around emergency services and protection. And though they need to have their own fire plan, that doesn't go without us being at risk by there being a fire right next door. And so what are we getting, what is in the agreement that allows for us to handle that, to mitigate that, and to be protected, really, from the outcomes of disasters on their sites? And that, in my opinion, what they're suggesting for those things needs to meet the municipality's compatibility. So AUC needs to hear that, yes, this is something the municipality can handle, or is willing to find a way or is capable of finding a way of handling. Again, I don't want them to say, this is how we see it happening and it be done. It should be something that's conversed with the municipality of us saying, this is workable.
Any other comments? I guess my question would be to the two of you. Have you got enough feedback, ideas? I think most of what you had there initially covered a lot of what our concerns are, but perhaps we've just kind of fleshed some of that out for you.
Yes, through the chair, that was appropriate. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any last comments that we want to make before we move on? I guess we would need to make a motion to direct administration to provide a written submission or to draft a written submission to the, as part of the AUC review and incorporate the concerns outlined both in your material and what we raised today. Outline the concerns as discussed, I guess. Go ahead.
Through the chair, I just wanted to mention that the letter will be brought back to council before it is sent to the AUC.
Okay, thank you for that. When is the submission date? September 3rd? Okay, so we will be able to see it in our August meeting then. Still have time to get her there. I guess email goes quicker than quicker than my thinking some days. Okay, so would somebody care to make the motion that council direct administration to draft a written submission as part of AUC 007 review, incorporating the concerns as Councillor Cunningham?
Quit moving it, Carolyn. I'll move that council directs administration to draft a written submission as part of the AUC Rule 007 review, incorporating the concerns as listed.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, first I want to say thank you to Ushba. Thank you for putting this together for us, and we very much appreciate the work. I know it didn't just fall into place, so thank you. Any other discussion or comment? If not, all those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you again. Okay, the next item on our agenda is 7.3, Proposed Medical Clinic Rent Stabilization Program. And Mr. Hogan, I assume you're taking this one.
I was going to say, Ushba did such a good job on the last one. Like maybe
Okay. Well, welcome back.
Yes, this will be myself. So the item that's before you is the rent stabilization pilot program for the Kneehill Medical Clinic. Council has discussed this previously. Of course, that previous discussion, because it was part of a negotiation, was conducted in closed session. So now this is the formal program come out to the public for council's consideration. So in this program, 5 of the 6 regional municipalities have come together and been working with the doctors to try and find a different avenue to encourage or stabilize medical services for the region. And a large driver of this was understanding that the operations at the hospital require a critical mass of doctors to maintain. We've seen in other communities where those medical services, whether they be doctors, nurses, whoever, aren't present, and they've had to shut down emergency rooms, even temporarily or permanently, or that other services have become jeopardized. And it was recognized that the more that we can retain and recruit doctors to this region, that the better a position that we would have our health services in. The health services, of course, reflecting upon quality of life necessary for economic development and a whole host of other things that are out there. Previous to this, the Doctor Retention and Recruitment Committee or task force was looking at ways of trying to do this. And they've been in operation for some time. And I think what was identified is that the programs or the major incentive that was being given to new doctors coming to the community was not proving to be, it wasn't having the results that we would have hoped it had long term. So those yearly or those within the first 3 years, those retention bonuses that were being paid, we're still seeing doctors leave after obtaining those bonuses. And what was looked at by the regional municipalities in this was saying, in addition to that not working, it's also sort of a reward for just new people coming in. So what are we doing for the existing longer-term doctors? It's kind of like when you're on a cell phone provider and you know what you're paying and you see the deals that they're giving new people to come on, right? You're saying, but I've been with you for years. Where's mine? Through discussion, what came out was the idea of a rental subsidy. So as council is aware, the Kneehill Medical Clinic is a portion of this building. The county acts as a landlord for the clinic. And what was looked at in discussion is that if there was a way to stabilize or ease that burden on the doctors, that could have some positive potential. And so the question fell to, Kneehill County was already providing a hefty subsidy in addition to above the rent that was being charged. So there was already a large subsidization going on. If additional one was to take place, the discussion occurred that should fall to the group of municipalities in the region because it was for regional benefit. And it shouldn't just be borne by Kneehill County. This is a concept that most of the other municipalities bought into and said, hey, we're all in this together. So I think it's a great example of the towns and villages of the area coming together for a common purpose and all, and chipping into that. So what was born from that was the idea of conducting a 3-year pilot program that would see the municipalities chip in and basically cover the rent on behalf of the medical clinic. Obviously, the doctors over there will still have their costs for overhead and everything related to that. This is solely to rent and to the base rent. There's still utilities and things like that get applied on. But what this amounts to is an easing of the overhead burden, which will hopefully allow the physicians and the clinic to explore alternate methods of delivery. So as an example, I mean by that, maybe they have some that just do clinics, some that just do ER. They can explore the additional use of nurse practitioners. So when I say alternate service delivery, I mean it in that vein. I don't mean it in some of the other discussions going on in the province right now. But the idea would be that the municipalities would try this for a 3-year period and be able to assess how it was working. If we were seeing the goals that are contained within the agreement met, that we could reassess whether the program should not be a pilot and should just be in place going forward, or assess if it wasn't working, then then how do we change it up? Or what's it look at there? So that's all outlined in the proposed agreement that's in front of you. The agreement that's in front of you has been endorsed by the doctors, and so that they've seen this. They're in agreement with it. And actually they've been complimentary of the initiative that the municipalities have undertaken on this. So that's a positive sign. I can also report that the other municipalities involved in this, Acme, Linden, Three Hills, and Trochu, have all approved this document through their councils already. Just timing, we happen to be the last one. So that is the consideration that's before you as to whether or not you'd like to move forward with this program or not. The only difference between what you've seen previously is the inclusion of actual goals and outcomes that we wanted to see. So that's the addition from when you've previously looked at this and approved it in principle when it was still in the negotiation phase. And those goals and things were worked out with the representatives of the chief elected official group. And myself met with a couple of the doctors, and together we were able to arrive at those goals. So they were worked out in conjunction with the physicians group.
Thank you for that, Mr. Hogan. Any discussion concerning this request for decision? Councillor Forbes.
Well, I was going to make the motion that council approve the Kneehill Medical Clinic Rent Stabilization Pilot Program Agreement and authorize the mayor and chief administrating officer to sign said agreement.
In our case, the Reeve.
Yes, sorry, the Reeve. Well, I'm just reading from what's on
Yeah,
here.
I see it.
The Reeve. My apologies.
You're demoting me to mayor. I've already been demoted from king. That might not go over well. Okay, so we have a motion to approve the Kneehill Medical Clinic Rent Stabilization Pilot Program Agreement and authorize the Reeve and Chief Administrative Officer to sign said agreement. Is there any further discussion to the motion? Deputy Reeve Woodstock.
Not really any discussion, but I just want to send accolades to the Reeve and the mayors and CAOs of the region for coming up with this plan, because we've been in a situation where things have not been going well, and I think this should fix that situation. So thank you again for all the hard work.
Councillor Penner.
I would repeat the same, but I was just wondering, what matrix, whatever, do you have in place to know if this pilot program has worked? Is it that we're keeping the doctors, or that there's, if one leaves, one is there immediately? Like, what is the discussion, I guess?
Okay, so if you look in the agreement where it talks about program evaluation, so point 3, the partners have established the following targets. So first one being continued physician coverage of hospital and ER operations. And the reason it's worded that way is we recognize that the physicians aren't responsible to keep the hospital open, but that they're a critical component of the hospital. So if there was a nurses shortage and we couldn't staff the hospital appropriately for technicians or whatever, the hospital might get closed, but it's not the physician's fault. So they're responsible to ensure physician coverage is available to hospital and ER. The second one is a measured increase in the number of doctors serving the greater Kneehill region. So we have less than that number currently, and what we're requesting is that it at least reach that. That would be the measurable. We're looking at trying to keep those physicians beyond that initial 3-year period. So the other thing is increased in the cumulative patient panel at the clinic. So currently their patient panel is 5,545. And what we're looking for is a measured increase, and that we're looking for 1,000 patients additional within that 3-year period. And the other thing is to note that let's say they went down to 6 doctors, but through nurse practitioners and other flexible arrangements, now they're covering 8,000 patients. They've succeeded. So we're not holding any one of the measurables as an absolute. What we're looking for is continued coverage of the hospital and availability of ER in our area. We're looking for an increase in patients being served within Kneehill County and by that clinic. And so the model allows them some flexibility in terms of how they address those things, but those are the things we're looking to measure. And so success will be determined by, if all of a sudden they're down to 4,000 patients and 3 doctors, have they succeeded? No. But my only comment I would make is, since we have gone through this process, my understanding is there's a definite interest in some of the doctors who are looking sort of at greener pastures to potentially stay here. And I know one of the doctors, and I'm very grateful for this, has chosen to increase the amount of time being spent in the clinic and available to patients. So there's almost an immediate effect that's happened. And it's being viewed very positively by the doctors. So I think that the opportunity for success going this way is great. I was extremely pleased with the cooperation of our partner communities, that they saw that there was a real need and that they chose to actually participate to solve that. And so from my point of view, sitting in the room with the mayors and the CAOs from the other communities. It was a very productive, it was a lengthy process, but it was productive, and I think we've come to a good place. And I have to compliment those mayors and those CAOs for the work that they did to make this come about. So I hope that helps or answers your question.
No, it doesn't. I knew it was it, but I just wanted to put it out in just to, and for you to explain, in case it was a little bit more behind the scene, not necessarily
Okay.
just in this wording, if you were elaborating a little bit more. So no, thank you.
Okay, not a
And
problem.
appreciate all the work that you've all done on this. So we need our doctors.
Yeah, to me, it was quite interesting once we got into the process that they got really committed to, okay, we need another date, bam, we had a date. We need another date, bam, we had another date. So they all were very cooperative in terms of moving this forward and keeping the conversation happening in a timely way, because nobody wanted to drag this out over the next year or whatever. Like, a lot of them are thinking, we need this in place right now, and we need it yesterday, sort of thing. And so they committed to the process, for sure.
Well, and I'm hoping if it is success or whatever, that we can bring back to delivering babies and things like that. The doctors are here that can do that kind of stuff and get the anesthesiologists and whoever back at our local facility. So it would be outstanding.
Yep. Councillor Cunningham.
I just want to echo what Deputy Reeve Woodstock, and sorry you're demoted again, and Councillor Penner said, it's been a long day.
It's been a long day.
Yeah, it has been a long day. Yeah, I'm really excited about this. It's been a hard thing to kind of keep under wraps, but you know, we had a long discussion today about economic development. We've said it 100 times. That's a whole piece to economic development, wanting people to move here, to have that hospital, to have doctors, bring business, keep people here, all of that. So kudos to you, Reeve King, and to the mayors and to the CEOs and to the physicians. Just amazing that this has come together. Collaboration, working together, amazing what can happen. My husband decided to keep life interesting and have a medical emergency last week, so I can say firsthand, the two doctors that we saw were amazing. So we are very thankful and very lucky and very grateful in this area to have that hospital, so we need to keep it at all costs. So again, thank you to everybody for your work on this. It's amazing.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor McGee.
I also want to say thank you, and I just wanted to celebrate that overall municipalities that have a good relationship with their entire community and with each other can make great things happen, and I think this needs to be bragged about as an excellent example of how a good relationship just brings on more and more gifts to all of us, and so thank you again.
Okay, thank you for that. So we do have a motion in front of us to go ahead and approve and authorize the mayor, here I go. Thank you.
Who are you? What are you?
Is it time to go home yet?
We got another couple hours left.
To authorize the Reeve and the Chief Administrative Officer to sign this agreement. Is there any further discussion related to the motion? Do we need to clarify my position again? Oh, man. If not, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And that is approved unanimously. Thank you. And I am going to suggest that to administration and hopefully through the other CAOs and yourself, Mr. Hogan, that we can find a suitable opportunity to have a photo op and a signing of this document, because I think it is really a landmark document in our medical service provision. Yes. All right. The next item on our agenda is one of Ms. Vanderkoel's favorites. She loves bringing these to us. And that is the 2024 Kneehill County Scholarship applications. And I was very pleased to see we had numerous and many applicants. And so, Ms. Vanderkoel, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. Not Mr. Mayor, but Mr. Reeve. Today, I am pleased to present the 2024 Kneehill County Scholarships. As you may know, each year Kneehill County awards 2 scholarships of $2,000 each to residents enrolled in post-secondary institutions. This year, we received 7 eligible applications from across the majority of the high schools in our region. This is an encouraging increase from previous years, as last year we had 6 applicants, and the year prior we had 3 applications. This means that our social media coverage, newspaper ads, posters in schools, and letters to school principals have effectively raised awareness about the scholarship program, resulting in greater number of applicants. Additionally, I also believe that changing the submission date to the end of June instead of the end of August has increased submissions. Students are still in the work mode in June, while in August, resources and motivation might not necessarily be there to complete applications. So every year we come up with a new essay question on the application. This year, the essay question posed to the applicants was, what are the challenges and opportunities for youth participation in county decisions and public engagements? What barriers do young people face, and how can these obstacles be addressed to enhance their involvement? As we are now ready to go into the valuation process of this program, before we begin, I will just review to you the process. So council was provided the applications prior to this meeting. I would also like to add that administration has redacted the names to minimize any unconscious bias. Each applicant's essay, reference letters, and contributions to school and community leadership activities will be rated on a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest score. The scores will be logged into a spreadsheet and weighted as follows: 50% for the essay, 25% for letters of reference, and 25% for contributions to school and community. We will begin with the essay question, and we'll start with candidate number 1 and go around the table, and each counselor will say what score they have provided for that candidate. Their results will be put into the spreadsheet, and once candidate number 1 is complete, then we'll go on to candidate number 2, and so on. After the scores have been tallied for the essay question, then we'll go on to contributions and then letters of reference. And on the right-hand side there, there's a rank and the percentages that they have received. So then we'll see at the end of the results who will rank number 1 and number 2.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Ms. Vanderpool, we're all aware of what the process is. And so my thought is that I am going to start with Councillor Christie on the first applicant, and what we'll do is we're going to go through, and my suggestion is we're going to go all the way down all the applicants on the essay scores first. And so Councillor Christie, you get to weigh in first on applicant 1, and then Councillor Cunningham, and then Deputy Whitstock, and then myself, and so on. Since we have 7 applicants, that gives us all a chance to go first. And we're all really excited about that possibility. I know. So, or we could just skip me. There we go.
Just a comment, I'm glad I'm not competing against these 7 individuals, because that's all exceptional. Anyway, Council, on the first one, I'll go with the 9.
I'll go with a 9 as well.
7.
7.
8.
7.
7.
Okay, we're moving on to applicant 2, Councillor Cunningham.
I have a 9.
I have an 8.
I have an 8.
I have an 8.
I have an 8. 8.
9.
Okay, applicant
7. I know the process.
It's not a race. I have to keep up to you. Yeah. It's very competitive.
I had a 9.
I had an 8.5. Am I allowed to put in half? Okay.
9. 8.5.
8.
Applicant 4.
Applicant 4, sorry. 9.
Wait, sorry. Are we still we're on the,
3, sorry. Yeah, 3, I'm sorry. That was my fault.
Yeah.
You still the same number?
Still the same, yeah. What was the number? 9.
See, because I'm not going to blame anybody here. Okay, so we are now on applicant number 4, and I'm a 9.
I'm not, number 4? 8.
I'm a 7.
8.
9.
8.
We are now on applicant number 5. And Councillor Forbes.
I put 9.5.
8.
7.
9.
7.
I'm a 7. Councillor, or applicant number 6, and Councillor McGee, please.
9.
8.
7.
8.
6.
8. And we're on applicant number 7, and Councillor Pender.
7.
7.
8.
7.
7.
7.
All right, so we've got that portion done. We are next moving on to contributions within the community. We are starting with applicant number 1, and I am going to give that opportunity to you, Councillor Cunningham, to begin that.
I am a 9.
5.
I'm a 9.
I'm a 10.
7.
7.
All right, thank you. We're on to applicant number 2 and Deputy Reeve.
6.
An 8.
10.
6.
8.
9.
Thank you. On to applicant number 3. I was an 8.
9.
9.
7.
8.
7.
We're on to applicant number 4 and Councillor Forbes.
Oh, 8. 8.
8.
6.
8.
6.
7. On to applicant number 5, and that would be you, Councillor McGee.
10.
8.
4.
Sorry, Councilor McGee, sorry, can you go ahead?
I'm a 10.
And I was an 8.
Councillor Christie.
I was at a 4. Scribbled it out twice, but I just ended up at a 4.
I was 8.
6.
I was a 9. We're on to applicant number 6 and Councillor Penner.
6.
5.
7.
5.
7.
8.
And we're on to applicant number 7 and Councillor Christie.
4.
7.
5.
7.
7.
Sorry, Carolyn, I'm going to have you go back because I said wrong for the one prior. I went down one. So it should have been a 10 for the person before from me instead of an 8, which was the last comment there, the last one. And then this one is the 8. So my apologies for messing you up.
6.
Okay, so now we are going to go up and score letters of reference. And we're going to start with applicant number 1 and Deputy Reeve.
6.
I was a 9.
I was an 8. I was a 9.
6.
8.
9.
Okay, we're moving on to applicant number 2. I was an 8.
I was an 8 too.
I was a 10.
8.
8.
9.
8.
Moving on to applicant number 3 and Councillor Forbes.
9.
8.
8.
9.
7.
9. Applicant number 4 and Councillor McGee.
9.
8.
7.
9.
6.
9. 8. Okay, applicant number 5. We're starting with you, Councillor Penner.
8.
7.
8.
6.
9.
8. 9.
And moving on to applicant number 6 and starting with you, Councillor Christie.
7.
8.
6.
9.
10.
8.
And applicant number 7, starting with you, Councillor Cunningham.
9.
6.
9.
10.
8.
7.5, if we can go to 0.5. I scribbled 2 of them out back.
All right, the results are, ranked number 1 is Evan Gore. And ranked number 2 is Reagan Weeb.
Very interesting. Thank you to each of council for your work on rating these. I just want to note that it was actually very tough.
Oh, no kidding.
There were some amazing submissions and the essays were good. Some of the things that I picked out of some of those submissions in terms of youth participation related to the county was things like the potential of a youth council or having council do in-school presentations, perhaps having a student liaison with council. And again, the whole idea of being available to the schools as counselors and to be willing to do in-school presentation on process. Perhaps it's an opportunity for us to invite a classroom full of students to observe half a morning of council, and that way they get some nap time in while they're in school. But just the whole idea that they brought forward again and again, the idea that they wanted their opinions valid and they wanted to think that we as council actually were interested in what they might have to say. So
Grade 6 class come in for a couple hours
is that right?
years ago.
Okay. Councillor McGee, go ahead.
I was very excited to write, I listened to some of these ideas and then it just sparked all kinds of ideas. So could I suggest that we have a COW meeting in the near future where we actually communicate and discuss these ideas and make some action plans around them? I don't want us to do this and then forget to get back to that. So if we can make that a request of our administration to find time for that in the near future at a COW, I would really appreciate that.
So what we're looking for is ideas around how we can raise awareness of the process and be involved in school environments as council.
Sure.
So we'll have, I guess, 2 motions coming out of this, one of which is going to be Councillors McGee motion around bringing forward some of the ideas on how council can interact with students to a committee of the whole meeting? Okay. She has it as scholarship applications, ideas from the scholarship applications. Okay. So that's Councillor McGee's motion. I assume you're making that motion.
I was, thank you.
All right, thank you for that motion. Any discussion to Councillor McGee's motion? If I hear none, I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Of course, you know that that might mean we have to do some additional interaction, which is a good thing. The second motion we have is that council needs to award the 2024 county scholarships in the amount of $2,000 to the appropriate recipients. And would someone care to make that motion? Councillor Cunningham.
I'll move that council award the 2024 Kneehill County Scholarship in the amount of $2,000 each to Evan Gore and Regan Weeb. Am I saying that correctly? Regan? Okay.
Sure.
Okay, so the motion is that council award the 2024 Kneehill County Scholarship in the amount of $2,000 each to Evan Gore and Regan Weeb. Any discussion to that motion? If there is none, all those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. And once again, I just want to thank all the students who put their application in and for the efforts that they put into their essays and for the work that it took to get those references and to outline their community involvement. It's very much appreciated by myself as the Reeve and I assume by all of us as councils. Councillor McGee.
So one of the suggestions I would like to bring forward, and it might be too late, we might have to make it for next year. I think one of the engagement pieces would be wonderful to have all of these applicants come and meet us and have a conversation with them. So come and meet us after the next meeting and have a brief pop together and just visit. That's something very casual, but just say hi, thank you for participating. I'd love to have a conversation about what you're about.
So is that before we make our decision or after we make our decision?
It would be after, always.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's an idea. I had that. Genuinely, I read some of these letters going, I want to meet this person. And I think it would be just a great way to wrap up this type of engagement is meet these people who have such great convictions and great residents.
Yeah, because after all, we know who the winners are, but beyond that, the other 5 applicants, we're not aware of who they are, so. Okay, thank you for that. All right, do we need a break or are we good to go on? All right, so do we have a delegation or public hearing? No, we didn't. So next item on our agenda is 9.1 Community Futures Wildrose, and I'll just remind Councillor Christie if Councillor Penner just immediate comment.
That was.
Let's get her done.
Quickly, or what's the deal?
We got a long ways to go yet. You think we're close, but.
So this was the annual report that was presented in our June meeting. An extremely successful year. Talking about youth engagement, one of the Yeti program things at the back of this is this year there's 2 applicants, one from Wheatland County, there was 2 originally. Tyson Seiler is back in this year. So Community Futures had asked both counties for $1,000 for each student. Our county declined, and I said I'd back that if our county declined. So it's such a strong youth program down the road. I think it's very valuable, and I have a personal passion for this because my son started in grade 8 with I Want to Be a Millionaire program that started him off with a $200 bursary to run a business for 2 years. He's never looked back since then. that concludes what we're doing with Community Futures. Starting off this year has been a really, really strong start where they've got a couple of fairly large loans. So I think they're a third of the way through their loan program this year already.
I just had a quick question around, who's the carbon rep on the Community Futures?
Rosa. Jimbo.
Okay.
And we didn't have a picture of her, so that's not in my report.
Okay, thank you. All right, any further questions for Community Future Wildrose? If not, Deputy Whitstock, you're up next with an Aqua 7 Water Commission report.
Okay, there we go. All right, I'll try to make it quick. I know Rocky View had an issue with the amount of water that they were allocated because they do have a guarantee of 2,200 cubes per day. But when you look at what we're licensed for and the allocations, it never worked out unless, of course, we added the 650,000 cubes